I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 158. This one's with Gaelen Harlacher and Hugo Fitz of the Perks Department. Gaelen, I hope I pronounced your name right. I listened to it and listened to it again, and I hope I did it right. Gaelen and Hugo were an absolute joy. They were a lot of fun. We had a great time shooting the shit, and this podcast went on a very long time. That's one way you can tell it's a really good episode. We talk about art and artist events. They hold artist events, kind of like punk rock flea market, Lil Goth prom, stuff like that. If you'd like to find out more information about them and follow them online, follow them on Instagram or Facebook at The Perks DEPT. THEPERKS DEPT. And I appreciate Gaelen and Hugo for being on. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Feral Giant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode.
Cool.
How annoying is the sound of our dog right now? Can you hear it?
Nope, not at all.
Great. This microphone's proving its worth. He's back there swinging around toys and making rattling noises. Okay, great. Oh, great. That's awesome.
Not hearing it at all.
This thing works out pretty good. I've been on 2 other podcasts in my entire life, both of them in the past year, and I've had this thing forever, and I used them. I used this for them, and they were like, "Oh, this is great. We're so used to dealing with horrible audio with people," and I'm like, "Well, somebody else should have me on a podcast. I've got some shit to talk about."
So I had that exact same mic, and I lent it to somebody and forgot who, and it is just lost to the air. And then I'm not kidding. I am an Oreo enthusiast, and I traded a half-eaten pack of Oreos for one of these mics.
Wow.
What kind of Oreos?
Were they like some kind of special limited edition?
They were one of the limited edition ones, but you could still go out into Kroger or Walmart and pick them up.
Wow.
But
somebody was just hungry.
Well, my friend, she had this mic in her garage and didn't need it. And she also got divorced. So I don't know if it was her ex-husband's, but she was like, if you'll come, you come pick it up, you bring me Oreos, I'll give them to you. And yeah.
That's my favorite.
Bring me Oreos, and not even a brand new package. Just give me your old half-eaten package. That's fantastic.
Give me what you got.
This is how much of an Oreo. My friend made this on a 3D printer, and it's a stash.
God, look at that. So cool. Wow. That's
all this is going to be, is show and tell for 2 hours.
I'm into it.
We're vegan, so by default, we are also Oreo enthusiasts.
Yeah. Vegan, gluten-free. They have gluten-free.
Yeah.
They do now, yes. I don't know if you do you have Carvel? Do you know about Carvel?
I know of Carvel from Kevin Smith because he would on one of his talking shows he made fun of Carvel. So of Tom, is it Tom Carvel, the guy who started it?
Yes. Yeah.
Said when the ice cream came out, he said him and his friends imitated like he was pooping and doing the circles. And I
Okay.
knew Cookie Puss and Fudgy the Whale
Oh yeah.
from Kevin
Yeah.
Smith. Yeah.
Well, and the Beastie Boys had a Cookie Puss
Oh,
reference.
yeah, that's right.
So that
Cookie Puss is terrifying. I'm afraid that Cookie Puss is going to come after you in your room right now. But I was going to say Carvel is like very a staple of living on Long Island. And recently they made vegan ice cream, vegan soft serve with Oatly, but then they used the gluten-free Oreos in a cake so it could be vegan and gluten-free.
Holy
And
hell.
cool of them. There's room for improvement with the way that they did
Yeah.
it, but it was cool that they used those vegan gluten-free Oreos. Shout out to Carvel, sponsor me.
Yeah, that's sponsor me. And remember how I said I was close to 3 bills? Watch me get to 4 bills if we enough Carvel. We have a company down here called Mayfeld. That their ice cream is legit. Now, do they have vegan ice cream? Probably not. Because we are in the South.
Well, you know what?
I know.
We spent we were in Nashville.
Yeah.
Nashville, Knoxville.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah, Knoxville's my city.
Oh,
cool city.
Oh, that's a fun one.
We walked by the bookstore. We didn't have time to really stop.
Giant golden microphone, right? Was that Knoxville? Or am I thinking of somewhere else?
The Sun Sphere. Good Lord, I've not heard it referred to as a giant golden.
I saw it. I thought it was a microphone.
More show and tell. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. I thought it was a microphone. I thought it was a dolly thing. I'm like, what is it? What? But great coffee shop.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, Tennessee had so much damn good everywhere. Denver, Nashville, all over Florida. We eat better outside of New York than we do in. And it's funny because, you know, I grew up thinking, man, like I went vegan 25 years ago and I was like, man, I'm lucky I was born here where I'm at this, like, I'm close to New York City. We're a suburb, but we're basically, you know, Long Island is basically.
Yeah.
For all practical purposes.
We're like 30 miles away. Yeah. It takes 2 hours, but we are very close. Yeah.
But like, oh, it's so like I'm so lucky I grew up in this you know, area in this region, because this is like, if I was somewhere else, if I was in the Midwest or the South or something, I wouldn't be able to eat. Like, what would I do? And nowadays it's flipped, where all those old school places went out. All the old classic 70s, 60s and 70s vegan, like hippie spots in the city and stuff are gone. And it's all that new next wave stuff. And it's all happening in other places. And I love to travel and I love to eat and I love to combine the two.
I'm trying to think. I think we have 2 or 3 vegan places downtown. We've got actually a Black-owned, like Jamaican vegan place in the food hall that is legit.
Yeah.
Because if you spice the shit out of anything, it's going to be amazing.
It's the whole classic thing of Black cooking.
Yeah.
They understand how to flavor things and translate that into vegan food. And that's what you need, is the flavoring.
And I feel like
especially Jamaican, like the ital and stuff like that.
A lot of vegetable based things too. So even if you are not vegan or not interested in eating fake meat, there's like food.
Well, that's the
you
thing.
can eat.
Most
vegetables.
of the time with the
food.
Jamaican and ital and Rastafarian stuff, it's still that old school ideology of really good cooking with vegetables. It's not the substitute fake meat processed bullshit that like we kind of live off now because it's easy and fun. But I love that stuff.
There's a food truck here that does barbecue, but it's jackfruit instead of pork. And it's I haven't had it because we used to have a lot more food truck activity, but I think the COVID kind of curtailed that a little bit. But I don't know about it. I have a chili cook every year, and I was one ingredient off of being vegan, and all it was Dale's seasoning. You all may not have it. Or do you know what I'm talking about? It's almost like a Worcestershire like seasoning thing. It was not.
Like I've seen it, but I don't know.
It was the only thing. Like I could have left it out without. You know, I could have put vegetable broth instead of that to keep it juicy, but I was like, damn it. I was one step off of being vegan. Yeah, it was crazy. And I think it was like eggs or something. So it was, I can't remember. Whatever it was.
I would think maybe anchovy.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, whatever it was vegetarian, but not vegan.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it must have been eggs or some sort of dairy. It might
Yeah.
have been caseinate or one of those weird things that, yeah.
I hate to say it's one of those things. The amount of that's in there is probably so minimal.
Yeah. You would never even, and it would be just as easy to leave it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
It's surprising that you even realize that though, because most people that aren't vegan that I encounter are like, but what do you do? It's like, no, you order a bean burrito with no cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, but what else is in it? Like everything else.
Everything else.
Just no dairy or no meat.
Block,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
lettuce,
it's funny.
Tomato and the rice and the beans and all the fun stuff. You wouldn't even
all the stuff you need except for one ingredient. Like literally it's one ingredient short and it's fine. That's crazy. Okay, so you mentioned Long Island. Are you all both originally from Long Island?
Born and raised.
Born and raised. The only thing I know about Long Island is a lot of comedians are from there, like Seinfeld, Chris Rock.
Sure.
That's about it.
Eddie Murphy.
Alana Glazer.
Broad
City.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy went to Nassau Community College where I went. So did Billy Crystal.
Okay.
Who else do we got?
Ken Marino of the state.
Yeah.
A personal favorite.
Yeah.
Ken Marino.
Rick Dukerman, who was in the Burbs.
Dude. So there's I think it was on that one. Was it Blank Check? There's a podcast I listened to called Blank Check, and I swear they just talked about there was some podcasts I listened to just about the Burbs. That was one of my dad movies. Like my dad and I bond over movies. And the best is when I was 11 years old, he was flipping around and he was like, oh, hell, boy, here you go. This one's a good one. And it was like midnight or so. It was Deliverance. He turned on Deliverance. It was on HBO or something. And then he went off to bed. So I'm sitting there looking out the window like, where are the rednecks coming for me, man? Like, but Burbs is one of the.
You cut out.
Oh.
And then I just spilled my soda. I'm great. I'm good. I'm thriving.
It's weird. I saw that it just said your connection is unstable, but I am at full. I even restarted everything to make sure.
It might be us.
It might be us. It could be us.
We're in a hole.
Oh.
So.
We're in the basement.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see anything on my end. So, but yeah, the Burbs, Rick Dukerman, my parents were big comedy nerds, so they loved him before that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. He was great. I remember like a comedy hour on HBO that he did back in the day. And I only knew who he was and got like more enthused about him because he was from Long Island. Somebody my dad knows him or something, one of the other, my dad was a mailman. So one of the other mailmen, I think maybe delivered to him or to his house or something. I don't know.
Amazing. Rick Dukerman. That's not a name you hear all the time.
He's not a household name, at least anymore, but he's, the people that know him know him.
Yeah. And he passed away like super young too. Like he was not that old when he passed away.
I didn't even know.
Yeah. I think he passed away like in the 90s. Like he's been gone a while. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not going to look it up because I'm going by bar rules. We don't look up anything. No.
There you go. There you go.
So growing up, what did your all's folks do for a living? You said mailman on your end?
Yeah, my dad was a mailman. My mom was a medical transcriptionist, so a typist for yeah.
How about you?
So I guess I technically have 4 folks. Because my parents divorced young and then repartnered young. Young for me. They weren't young, but My dad is a machinist.
Okay.
He works on cars, anything with a motor, but he also like makes parts. He does like a bunch of stuff I don't understand. Hugo could tell you more, but works on cars, very smart with that kind of stuff, but like it's all up in his head, not great at sharing it. And that's okay. That's probably why I can't tell you what he does. Really, because yeah. My mom was like a lifelong equestrian. She worked different jobs related to that, and then after my parents split up, and it was kind of like we can't really switch off. It's like when you're in school, I'm at work now, whatever. She went more into like service jobs, waitressing, stuff like that. My stepmom cut hair. She moved here from Washington State. She like lived the New York City dream, cut hair, somehow moved out to Long Island, met my dad, and she is like a psychiatric nurse now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And my stepdad was actually a commercial photographer and like a steady cam operator at one point. And then he went into archaeology and like, I don't know if you'd call it historical reenactment, but he also did like shows as a pirate, like historically accurate guns, whatever.
Oh my God.
Yeah. My stepdad was
when you said my stepdad, you both giggled, and I was just like, "Oh God, what's coming next?" That was not a path I could have guessed for $1 million.
Okay.
Gene's a pirate.
Yeah. He's like a history buff. He's into all different cultures, languages, everything that's not traditional sports. He used to do fencing and all these like,
yeah.
I feel like across the board, I was around people that didn't have like the standard American dream. Nobody cared about sports. People were in the garden. People were like not into popular culture, just doing what they liked. And it kind of made me a weirdo. Like I haven't seen most movies. And even like as an adult, I saw Jurassic Park when it was re-released for the first time.
Okay.
People were jealous. They're like, you're like 26 and you get to see Jurassic Park for the first time and appreciate it. I was like, yeah. So I'm a weirdo.
As somebody who's a ginormous movie nerd, I have learned that is hit or miss, because there for a while I was showing films at a place here in town twice a month, and I would have to, the person who ran it owned the building, was like, you got to show one big film and one smaller film. You can't just show all your weird smaller films, because people are just gonna be like, what is Frailty? I was like, oh, it's just great movie. Bill Pullman. It's like, he even directed, or Bill Paxton. I was like, he even directed it. And I would go into the thing and they'd be like, no. Okay. So it'd be one big film.
Yeah.
I kind of skirted around that a little bit a few times, but one time we showed Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and then the owner and I debated whether it was a hopeful or sad film. And I said sad and made my case. And when I got done, she grabbed the mic and she was like, never mind. And essentially handed me the mic back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Back to Long Island. That movie takes place on Long Island.
Yeah.
That's where they take the train to the, oh God, that film.
Yeah.
That film is brutal. I don't care what people say. That film is brutal, man.
I watched it once. I watched it when it came out. I watched it once. I couldn't handle it again.
Oh
but
my
I've
God.
seen
Here, then I will give a film recommendation just because you just said the word. The film Once. If you've never seen the film Once, have you all seen this? It's like 2006. It's a Irish film. It actually won the Oscar for best song. The song was Falling Slowly. You've probably heard it at weddings and stuff. And then it got turned into a musical. But that first film, it's a real independent film. They shot with DV cameras. Glenn Hansard, Marquette Erglove. It's like an hour and a half long, and it is a amazing film. And it's a
subtitles necessary?
Huh?
Thick
no.
accent?
If you ask my mom, yes. Me,
okay.
no.
Okay.
That's funny. So what's the
Dairy
Dairy
Girls.
Yeah.
we recommended it to my mom. She grew up with a Irish nun uh aunt. We're from Long Island, we say aunt.
I say both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She grew up around that accent and
Yeah.
she couldn't understand it. She was like, I can't understand what they're saying. I'm like, really? So it's funny, your mom also would need subtitles
Oh,
for
yeah.
that.
Oh,
But
yeah. It's hilarious.
I think we
Once.
were lucky though that we kind of benefited that we turned the closed captioning on the TV by mistake somehow and couldn't figure out how to get rid of it for like
Yeah.
a year. So I think that year was when we ran through Dairy Girls first. So it was kind of,
Oh my God. That is one I've seen clips of, but never watched it because
fantastic.
it's one of those weird ones where it's like, where the hell is this thing? Like on the PBS app, like I can't. I hate to say
yeah.
I've gotten to that
Netflix.
point.
It's a Netflix
It is on Netflix?
original,
Okay.
I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
a Netflix original.
Or no, it's a Channel 4.
Or Netflix exclusive
It's
or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the
For the
channel
US.
the UK Channel 4 thing.
Isn't it very like cheery, happy show? No.
It's funny.
It's
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny.
Okay.
It's not like full on like the troubles and
Yeah.
misery and people getting killed and
Okay.
starved to
Okay.
death or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not like cheery, happy, and like an awful, gross Hallmark kind
Okay.
of way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good.
You know
That's a
what- you
good.
know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I will say this just to put a pin in it once. I say it's a musical in air quotes because you all can see that and people at home
Sure.
cannot. Because it's like they'll be in a music store and he'd be like, "Man, I've been working on this song." And he tells her how to play it and they start playing it together.
Okay.
And that's how
Okay.
it's kind of a musical. Or it's like one point where she's working on a song, so she takes a Discman because this is 2006 and
Yeah.
headphones and walks and writes the song as she goes. So it's not like ta-da. It's
Good.
it's
I mean,
it's beautiful.
each their own, but no thank you
Yeah.
for the Broadway.
It's beautiful and it's just a very heartwarming, heartfelt, beautiful film.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's my recommendation is once. That's completely way the hell away from whatever in the hell we were talking about. But again, 5 hours sleep. That's what you get with 5 hours sleep is the rambling part will just come full circle. Okay. Figured out what you folks did. Now, as a kid growing up, were you all into art at all? Yeah. So was that like encouraged in your families or?
Yeah. It was. In like a weird way. Like, I was told I was good at it. It was encouraged, but like my dad taught me to color in the lines. Like it was like you need to color in the lines. Like the preciseness of him being like a machinist, like he was like, you got to do it right. Like there was like, you're an artist, but like imagination wasn't really cultivated.
Okay.
So and like I didn't realize that until I was older. Like I went to college for photography. I didn't want to go to college and I was like, well, if I can get in doing something that I like, fuck it. And then called my bluff. I got in. So I went. And it was like very difficult for me to do assignments where it was like open-ended. Like I can print great, I can expose film great because I went to school with film. But I can't make like a story.
Okay.
Yeah. And that kind of ties into what I really like about doing events now is like, I love bringing people together. Me being creative is like making parties, making scenes and places and putting things together. Like I like to collage, and then also to collage with people and places and things like that. I'm not great at sitting down and like putting something on paper, or like having something to print. So yeah, I guess it's all relative. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, encouraged, yeah. My mom is actually a fairly talented artist when it comes to illustration, I think, more than anything.
Okay.
It's not something that's been cultivated or encouraged for her, I feel like. I don't think it was, she came up in the 50s and 60s, and I don't think anybody was pushing her to be an artist. It was kind of like
She had a bunch of siblings too.
yeah, she had like at least 6 siblings, and they were loosely, not exactly queens, but almost in Queens. And I don't feel like she was probably pushed to do art. But she always kind of jumped in once in a while when I was young, and she would draw, and I'd be like, what? Where's this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen her do it in quite a long time, but she had raw skills at the very
Okay.
least. She did design a logo once for the Parents and Teachers Association, my elementary school, and it was like, wow, where the hell do you figure? Like, how did you not? Especially at this point in where I have a career in graphic arts and stuff, and understand a little more what is involved in designing a logo. I was like,
Yeah.
how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
But yeah, she had skills, and definitely
She had sewing skills too.
sewing
Yeah.
was her thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was encouragement. I don't think I was ever pushed towards like, hey, you could be an artist for a living, you could
Okay.
become this. I probably showed a little decent intermediary raw skills. Like I won a couple of poster contests in elementary school and stuff, and was into it, liked it. Didn't probably ever think I had the chops to do it professionally, because I saw other people that were so much more talented. I mean, I
Yeah.
had a cousin, and and this is kind of having this hindsight where I'm at now in whatever industry or whatever. I had a cousin who was a incredible illustrator, and he used to draw weird little comics, and he did this insane oil painting of the Predator, and he did go to Art Institute in Pittsburgh, and he is I don't even understand what the hell his job is. He works on a farm. He went in, he became, he worked in a mechanic shop for a while, and then he was like welding prefabricated car washes together for a few years, and now he works on a farm. And I don't think he's ever worked in art, and he has a degree. And I'm like,
Wow.
that's such a classic thing to see, is that art, you can get a degree in art, you can have incredible skills in art, and never be pushed in the right direction to know how to make money from it.
Yeah.
And I kind of stumbled into advertising through people that I knew, and ended up there and kind of ran with it. And I was already doing a little stupid bullshit in Photoshop, designing flyers and demo covers for bands and stuff like that. But kind of ran with it, and that's where I'm at now.
Yeah. You may like this. So when I was in high school, we had vocational. My high school was pretty rough. Out of my graduating class of between 103 and 108, I don't know. 3/4 are dead, in prison, or have done jail time. 3/4.
Wow.
Like when we had our 20-year high school reunion, it was like there were very few of us there.
Wow.
And it was rough.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But it was a vocational school, and there were only 2 computers in the entire school. And they were the old Mac 2CIs.
Oh, wow.
And one of them was in print shop. And last month I hit 31 years of doing graphic design. Like we used to print out on a laser printer, take a negative of it, develop the negative, strip it up, burn a plate, like soup to nuts. Like,
sure.
That's how long I've been doing graphic design. I worked in Photoshop 1 when it just came with the scanner. It was Photo Photoshop.
Yeah.
And so I've been a designer forever. And it's I got very lucky. So also I'll put a button in this and get back to you all, but my instructor's name in the print shop was named Conley Miracle. And he was an old like army guy who ran print shops in army. He told
wow.
us about, he was in, because you mentioned Denver earlier, he was in NORAD, or what, the way he described it
Sure.
sounded like NORAD, because he was like, oh, I had to park my car and then walk 2 miles to the entrance, walk a mile in, and take an elevator down like 2
Wow.
miles to, like, it was
Oh,
insane.
that's
Now,
so cool.
all to do printing. Like,
Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
shit he saw is probably insane. Like,
That's the funny thing, is that the places that art and design pops up that you never thought of. Because
Yeah.
I would say when I was in high school, I did take a class called graphic communications, and
okay.
I took the class because everybody that was in I grew up in the punk and hardcore scene on Long
Yeah.
Island. Everybody took this class to print t-shirts for their band, and that's why I took it.
Yeah.
But it was basically an advertising class. We did a radio commercial, we did
Oh, yeah.
graphic art stuff, we did different things. And I would have thought at that point that, like, yeah, if you want to be a graphic artist, like, advertising,
Yeah.
that's the industry. And you don't realize I remember reading I don't know, was it Slaughterhouse-5, where
Yeah.
Vonnegut talks about how he was an artist in the
Yeah.
army, and he used to paint and create fake tanks to as
Yeah.
decoys for the bombing missions and stuff. And it's like, what? This is a thing? Like, there's so many different places that art and design pops up as
Yeah.
even as careers. So it's interesting.
It's a very weird thing. There was also a photography class, and it was all black and white because that's all they could afford to actually
Sure.
process. Like, it was crazy. So we would
Yeah.
do the same thing, like take photos of people for band or whatever. And
Yeah.
it was wild. It was wild. And they have gotten rid of almost everything except for like radio and TV broadcasting. Those are the
Huh.
only two things up there. They have graphic arts, like design, but you're like sitting in a lab with a computer learning how to design stuff. I was like, man, but printing was where it was at, because you learned why it needed to be put together a certain way.
Yeah. It's so I came into advertising on the print side.
Yeah.
And it's funny because everybody said, it's what, 15, 16 years now, and everybody was like, get out of this, go over to get into video, get into film, get into audio, get into the other stuff, get into web.
Yeah.
Print, we're in the last few years of this is going to circle the drain real fast. And largely it has, especially as like magazine advertising, newspaper ads. Like, we used to do dozens a week, and now I actually still work at the same agency, and we do one every few months. So it largely has disappeared, but I'm the only one left.
Yeah.
Everybody else kind of aged out that was doing print, and other people my age did not get into that, and now I'm the only one left. So I'm the only person that has that knowledge,
Yeah.
and that skill set. So it kind of puts me in a position where, well,
There's value.
I'm a little isolated, and I'm a little not isolated. I'm a little protected by the fact that, like, well, they can't get rid of me because nobody else knows how to do this shit. So it's kind of cool.
Let me tell you all about how to use a Pantone color matching system and what 300 DPI means. Like,
yes, exactly.
So it's wild. Like, we went from like 25 to 30 offset print shops, probably 2 or 3 big web printers, down to like hardly any. But the positive is we have three female-ish owned letterpress shops here in town.
Wow.
One of which is Julie of Yeehaw Letterpress. If you've ever heard of Yeehaw Letterpress, like they were big. And then now she's doing Pioneer House, and her ex Kevin, he's also doing, but mainly art. And then we have a woman, Sarah Shabaro, who does letterpress. And then the Happy Envelope, where they do like wedding invitations, where they have like intaglio, like metal. Good Lord. I can't get nerdy out on print, but But I think it's
love
wild
it.
that we went from
Love it.
25 to 30 like offset litho shops to
Yeah,
hardly anything. And there's
crazy.
probably 5 maybe. And a
Yeah.
lot of those are ones that do that and like banners. They have to do everything because
Oh yeah, for sure.
but there's a guy over here right by my house, Coleman Printing, that he's like 3rd or 4th generation. He has Heidelberg presses from like the early pre-World War II. I'll put it that way.
Oh, wow.
Like, and he still hand works his dies. Like he will
Yeah.
hand tool his. It's nuts, and he's like maybe 40 something, and it's
Okay.
crazy.
That's
But
that's awesome.
yeah. Okay.
It's just scary that those people are going to age out, and it's, you know, there's only going to be so many people left that know how to even use the equipment. And
Yeah.
are there going to be enough younger people trying to get into, and of the ones that are interested and want to do it, how many are going to have access to somebody that knows it and can teach them, or the equipment being available? It's terrifying.
Yeah.
To see that kind of like, what's going to happen?
Well, here I taught an intro to graphic design for middle school and high school kids, just in an community art center, and everything was by hand. Like I still have all the stuff here. And at the end of like the 10 weeks, I had professionals come in. I had them put together a portfolio, and the professionals critique their portfolios.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like it was so much fun, although having to wrangle 10 to 12 kids. It's like, kid, I can throw you across this room, man. You got to shut up.
Yeah. Sure.
Like, I'm gonna have a talk with your daddy when he gets there. I do the finger point. Yeah, I got that from my dad. God damn it, boy! I'm gonna. Okay, so when you all were little, were you into like comics or cartoons or anything?
Cartoons for me. I didn't have cable until I was like 12. I saw it at a neighbor's house. Like my neighbor had Nickelodeon, and that was the coolest thing. But Saturday morning cartoons, I was like, let's go. Garfield is my role model. There's so much about my life that's based off of Garfield, Snoopy, like all those classic ones. And like I wasn't into comic books. I couldn't tell you the difference between DC or Marvel. It just didn't stick with me. But I always loved the comic strips in the Sunday paper.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where I was at.
So when I was growing up,
and claymation. Stop motion stuff. I thought that was the coolest. For sure. Yeah.
This was a weird thing. I think it was like in the 60s when they did this, but my grandmother had all these like paperback books where they had collected all the newspaper strips. So you'd have a book like half an inch thick of nothing but like Snoopy, like, or Family Circus or something. It was the weirdest thing. It was the weirdest thing.
This is like published that way, or are you saying they clipped it out and pasted
I
it?
think they took the ones in the paper and just put them into like a paper. Yeah.
I definitely had Garfield books like
that.
I
think I did.
I had
too.
They were
Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh yeah. I've still got some of those. Yeah. Yeah.
And they had the strips.
Yeah, the Garfield ones.
They'd be like 2 on a page or something, maybe. But it was the strips from like the newspapers. I remember having those when I was a kid.
It's so weird that was a thing. Like now we can just Google it. But back then it's like
probably because somebody scanned those books.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. How about you?
It was the print industry, and there goes all the printing presses because you just look it up online. For me, definitely into cartoons. Definitely big into cartoons. You know, I was born in '79, so I grew up in the '80s. So it was cartoons and Nintendo. That was the whole world. Ninja Turtles was huge. Ninja Turtles was the first thing I ever kind of figured out how to draw. That I was like better than other kids at, for sure. But I did mess with comics a little bit when I was younger. I didn't get super deep in. I have friends that are like, I mean, I have a friend who's a grader for what I don't see, this is the thing, is I don't know that world, but like he works for some company that I'm sure is probably one of the biggest, if not, top few. He flies all over the country and grades collections that they're buying, and buy $6 million comic books from people. And I'm like, I don't know that world, but I did read a little, Wolverine Cable and stuff coming up.
The grading thing, I have 45 long boxes of comic books in my spare bedroom because I grew up, my dad was in the Army and they would give them comic books. So I grew up reading his Amazing Spider-Man from like the late 60s. Wow. Like all those key issues. And I've got a few of them in there. But one of my buddies has really gotten into the grading stuff, and he just picked up the first appearance of Punisher, and it's a 1.8. And I asked him, I was like, how much did that cost? And I think he said $600. And he was like, if this was a 9.8 or a 9.5, one of those two, he's like, it'd be like an $80,000 book.
Yeah.
That's like, can you imagine like the people who created that? Like, I'm going to publish a printed book that we're going to print millions of copies, and it's going to be worth $80,000 one day.
Wow. And they were just making an average middle-class income doing what they were doing. And there's people out there becoming millionaires just trading the thing that they made. It's so wild.
It's nuts. Okay, so when you were young, do you remember the first piece of art or artist that made you stand up and take notice? Something that stood out to you when you were younger?
I mean, for me, this isn't something that I like carry around as my stock answer to that question. I don't think I've ever thought about that, but as I'm thinking about it, Where the Sidewalk Ends, the illustrations in there, I was super into that. I thought that was cool. I've repurposed some of those illustrations over my life for, demos and flyers for bands and stuff like that. So I would say that was something I was exposed to pretty early on that checked some boxes and maybe go, oh, this is cool, this is fun.
I'm having a hard time with this. I mean, I wasn't like exposed to fine art. Like I was just like, oh, you're into art. Here's some crayons, like do your thing. Here's some construction paper. And it was like very passive, like I feel like I must have seen anything that was mass reproduced on things like Van Gogh's and Monet's and stuff like that. But I remember I went on a couple of like educational trip things over the summer when I was like 12, 13, 14, around that age. And the first time I went away, I think I was 12 or 13, and we went to the Louvre, and I was like so excited. Like I've always heard about this, kind of excited for, I wasn't really sure. I know I'm supposed to like this. This is very cool. And I saw the Mona Lisa and I was like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, are you kidding me?
So you just gave me the opposite answer. What was the first piece of art that pissed me off?
I was just like, not like anybody, not that anybody could do it, but I was like, people come all the way here to see this, and it's so little and it's so fucking hot in the Louvre because there's no fucking air conditioning. I don't know if they have it now, but like, or maybe I don't know. It was really hot. I remember that. Maybe they do have air conditioning. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But I just remember being like shocked that people cared. And I never thought like I could do something and they'll care about that. It was like, what?
Yeah.
But I did take a picture of it. I was happy to see it, but I just remember being like, there's things here that are like gigantic oil paintings that are like the size of the wall, and how long did it take? And I saw the Sistine Chapel then too, and you have to like lay on the ground, and I was like, people come to see this? Like my MacBook is bigger than the Mona Lisa. Like, what?
You sound so you all may want to punch me for this, but that's okay. My friend Michelle and I argue about art all the time because I come from like, you'll understand this. I come from marketing and PR and crap. So I'm like,
Yeah,
a lot of it's just marketing and PR. A lot of it's just hiring the right agent, getting the right write-ups, getting the right
Of course.
critics to like it.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
were in the museum in Philly. I ran up the Rocky steps because I'm a huge
Had to.
Rocky. I love those movies. But we went in and we went by one that was just this massive like landscape painting in oils. And she's like, this is bullshit ass couch art. And I was like, do you know how good this person had to be to do this at this
Yeah.
point in time in like the 1600s or whenever it was from? I was like, you're out of your fucking mind. I was like, this is amazing. And then we went into a room and it was Cy Twombly. And she was like, now this is art. I was like, this looks like a 3-year-old has been in here. I will fucking enjoy. I was so angry. And
No,
just
we
like,
back you up.
okay.
We got you.
Yeah.
We got you,
I'm-
fam.
I'm not I see, I say that I'm not a modern art person, and then there's stuff that I really do like, but I tend to kind of go back on the, what she said with the Mona Lisa and where we were earlier with the what your upbringing and your parents. I remember my dad would read the newspaper at the dinner table, and I mean, most of the time it was like Ghoulies and Chud and stuff like what's coming out on VHS or what's in the theaters. But I remember very vividly that there must have been an article about Andy Warhol.
Oh.
And this guy painted a fucking Campbell's soup can. This is bullshit. And that stuck with me. And I went, yeah. What's this bullshit? Anybody could do this. Is an art. And it stuck with me forever and ever. And because of when you get into print, you become a print nerd and a print junkie, and you understand, and mechanical reproduction, and I was a screen printer for a bunch of years. Coming back to it, Andy Warhol is now one of my favorites. I love some of the stuff he did. I think it's great, and I love screen printing and mechanical reproduction and all of that. So yeah.
There is one that if you ever want to hear me yell, I had a buddy of mine, Josh Shorey, on, and Richard Prince is the one that I was like,
oh, that's
if I ever see him, I swear to God, I will powerbomb. Wait, what is Stone Cold's move? I will do a Stone Cold stunner on that man.
Yeah.
Because I'm so angry.
That is
just
a level of bullshit that I just cannot get behind. We actually, so the agency, I worked for J. Walter Thompson for 15 years. I mean, I'm still there. It's Wonderman Thompson now, and in a few weeks it's going to just become VML. Well, Thompson name is over after 150 years. I actually worked extensively on the 150th anniversary 6 or 7 years ago. Anyway, worked there. We had a pretty extensive art collection. It was mostly photography. It was all the CEO at the time was kind of championed that, and I worked on a book documenting it for 3 years on and off. And we had a collection. One of the things in the collection was a series of photographs. Richard Prince. It was a promo photo of Biggie Smalls that Richard Prince signed a Biggie Smalls autograph on, and he did Kurt Cobain, and he did this one and that one, and Keanu Reeves, and it was just this series of promo photos of famous people with fake autographs on them, and I'm like, we paid what for this? Like, what? My bullshit healthcare insurance, and this is what we spent money on? You kidding me? Yeah,
so this always gets back to me, because my top three are the three artists that I love, I think, the most. The top two get shit on because their stuff is put on everything. It's Norman Rockwell and MC Escher. I think both of them are, and my third one's Piet Mondrian, which that's the one that I almost got a job at a screen printing at a t-shirt shop when I got out of high school, because you had to write down your top three artists, and he's like, hold up. How the hell do you know? Because I'm a football player. I was 6'6", 330. And he was just like, how the hell do you know who Piet Mondrian is? I was like, well, my teacher was really in. I got to learn, it's hard to reproduce. And I went through everything. And he was like, do you want a job here? I was like, nah, I'm not good at hand-drawn art. Let me send my buddy Anthony over here. I'm no good at this shit. But it was just like the amount of shit I've caught for liking Norman Rockwell.
Norman Rockwell is the best.
Are
of
you
all time.
out of your fucking mind?
Yeah, no, I absolutely love Norman Rockwell. I've got
Yeah.
a couple really sweet books here. I've got,
Yeah.
I mean, literally right next to me, I have artist and illustrator.
Love it.
It's
Love it.
blurring out because I got
Yeah.
my background blur on, but it's huge. It weighs 300 pounds. I love Norman Rockwell, and that's one of those things I grew up with. Like my mom was into Norman Rockwell. The art was around the house.
Yeah.
The prints, the cards, all that stuff. So big fan. And then
Yeah.
I actually saw the exhibit. I was in Louisville for a thing called Crazy Fest. It was like a hardcore punk festival. And went over to the Slugger Museum, and they had like an area for, rotating exhibitions, and they had a Rockwell thing in there. And I got to see a little bit of the process, and I was like, oh my God, this guy was an accomplished photographer to be able to create these images. And I had no idea that, that's how you create this kind of lifelike illustration, as you work from photos.
With that same trip where I went to Philly, I came up through DC, and this is what kind of prompted that trip. The Smithsonian in DC had an exhibit on Rockwell because the two biggest private owners of Rockwell's are Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. So they had loaned all of their pieces to the Smithsonian. And the thing that stuck with me is he did a Saturday Evening Post cover of an older man in a suit looking at a Jackson Pollock.
Okay.
And when you read the thing, it said, that is not Jackson Pollock. Norman Rockwell tried to recreate a Jackson Pollock, and he said it was the hardest thing he had ever done in his life.
Wow.
And I was like, that's amazing. That even he is like, no, that's astounding what that man did. Everybody just see paint drips, but that dude did something that is totally mind-blowing. So you mentioned horror. I'm going to mention one more artist before we move on. Bernie Wrightson.
Okay, before I have my finger on my nose, just so when
that's
you're
what
done,
that means.
I want to add something. That's okay. When you're done, I want to add something.
We do this where we're and then we'll go, oh, I'm up to 2. Oh, I'm up to 2.
I have 2, but I thought that looked weird.
No. Bernie Wrightson, who's a comic book illustrator, the guy who created Swamp Thing. He did a Frankenstein. Look up his Frankenstein because it's all just pen work. It is gorgeous. And depressing as shit, but it is gorgeous. Okay, number 1, go for it.
So, the piece of art that like stood out to me, positive thing, was seeing the cover for Clash London Calling.
Oh yeah.
That I was like, that's fucking awesome. Like, I want to be there. I want to do that. Like, how do I get that?
I think it took me until the like late aughts, early 10s to realize that was a riff on an old Elvis Presley cover. I had no idea until I looked up a song. I was like, wait, that was an Elvis Presley cover that they were. I was like, that's amazing. That's amazing.
In my late 20s when I saw that and went, wait, what?
I'm right now.
Never seen it.
I don't know that I have.
The layout of the type and everything, how it's an Elvis Presley thing.
But it's perfect. Like, it is perfect for them to riff on that. It is beautiful. Whoever did that. Okay, number 2.
The second thing is up until maybe 10 years ago, I thought, or no. Like, there was a time when I thought like, oh, anybody could do that, whatever. And then I learned about art history. Yeah. If you don't know what you're looking at, you don't get to say your kid could do it. That's all. Just need to say it.
Yeah.
Like, the time, the place, the context is so important. And it's nice to go to museums with Hugo because he gets it. And I don't have to say that every 5 feet. Like, not that I know everything, but it's like, if you wanted to, once I went somewhere with my cousin and she was like, I could do this, I could do that. Like, why did we come here? Like, why don't you go home and make it then? Like, what's happening? And it was like not enjoyable.
That's how I get in with like photography. Like, if you start looking at like Walker Evans' work or Danny Lyons and seeing how they captured a time. So I'll tell you this, I'll give you a photography one. I was a huge baseball fan. I was trying to get to all the stadiums. So I literally took a trip going from Knoxville to Cleveland, back to Knoxville to Detroit to Chicago.
Wow.
And seeing baseball in those cities. But when I was in Chicago, the art museum, the curator, I can't remember if he had retired or if he had just passed, but he had an extensive photography collection and it took up the entire basement level. And he had
Wow.
shit in there that it was like, I can't remember the name of the photographer, but I have a book in there about Earl Morris, the documentary filmmaker, that he was like, what is documentary in photos? And it was this famous photo from like the Spanish American War or something, where it's just a road and you can see cannonballs. And it was like, there's a chance he moved those cannonballs into the road to make it more. I was like, would it? And he wrote like 10 pages on would it lessen the impact? But that photo was in there. I was like, this is a photo from like 19,
Wow.
like God knows whenever. And he had some, I'm trying to remember if I say this not name right, Minor White. He had,
I
he
think
had,
that's how you say it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Minor White. And then shoot, the big guy that took the portraits, that took like Lincoln's portrait back in the day. Very famous photographer.
I'm not
We're
good at
gonna
art
look it up, right?
history.
We're not looking
Okay.
at that scroll. No looking
Not
it
good
up.
at
I
it.
was about to.
I can
I'm
picture
gonna
the
look it up.
portrait. Go ahead.
Historic portrait. The minute I say it, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, of course, that guy. Oh, yeah, he did have some Robert Capa, some Henry Cartier-Bresson,
Wow.
some Ansel Adams, which I love Ansel Adams and everybody shits on him, but God, now I can't find it.
Have you
what's
ever
that
been
guy?
to
The
that
Yosemite?
national park, the one that he shot the most, Yosemite? Yes, whatever. What you just said, I'm going to say it wrong.
Yosemite?
Yes, to carry all that photography
Oh my
equipment
God.
around. Are you fucking kidding me? To be able to get exposures that you can even share with anybody.
So there was, I think it was a PBS documentary on him that was talking to his kids. Oh, yeah, and the photographer I was trying to mention, Matthew Brady. He had Matthew Brady originals in there, and that's like the late 1800s.
Yeah.
But the documentary, it talked to his kids, and they were like, he was a crazy man. Like he would just be driving down the street, and he would have to set his camera equipment on top of the car. And said he once went and he saw something, and he stopped and he gathered everything, got everything up there, and then hit the button. And they're like, the minute he hit the button all the way down before he released it, the sun went down. And they're like, and it's one of his most famous photographs. And they're like, had he been half a second late, he would have never gotten that photo. Like, that's mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
But same thing with like
moment.
Henry Cartier-Bresson, same thing. It's like, who the hell would have thought of looking down an alleyway and taking a photo of kids in puddles and what that meant? Like, it's bonkers. It's bonkers. Okay. You're going to see me do a lot of this. That's my 5 hours of sleep. Like, hey, rein it in, dummy. Like, get back on topic. Okay. So you mentioned college. Where did you all, when you went to college, you said, I'll do photography. They accepted me.
Yeah.
So
I went to the School of Visual Arts in New York.
Okay.
I was like, I was terrible at math. Science is fine, but I got to the point where I was like, this is gross. I don't want to dissect animals. Like, yuck. These chemicals smell. Get me out of here. I could tolerate the darkroom chemicals. So I was like, I'm going to go to a school where I don't have to do any bullshit. So I only apply. I went to a portfolio review and I was accepted on the spot to Chicago Institute of Art. And I was accepted, like I got a letter a week later or 2 weeks later that I was accepted to the School of Visual Arts. And I ultimately went there because somebody told me Chicago was cold. And I don't know that I was really ready to like move so far away. I had like a very established social life in the city, taking pictures of bands, sneaking into bars to take pictures of bands. Like I had a very like, this is my life. So I went to the School of Visual Arts where I did not have to do anything but art.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And how about you?
My college journey was an epic quest. again, not really pushed to do art in any sort of a career way or any big way at all. Like not anyway, period. I mean, the most, my mom would get, drawing supplies and stuff when I was little. And then my dad, when I got to music age, 14 or whatever, and I wanted to play guitar, he was super into that because he grew up playing guitar and playing in bands and stuff. So big push for that. But other than that, no real push towards doing anything artistic, especially career wise or anything. So I went to a private college called Dowling on Long Island that no longer exists for 1 year in the pre-med program. Failed out of that.
Oh God.
Went to Nassau Community College, did a lot better there for a while, got my associate's degree. I bounced from business to liberal arts to whatever, got my liberal arts associates. Went to Stony Brook University, where I went back to pre-med for a year, and then kind of, I don't know what I switched to after that, and kind of floated around for a little bit until finally I decided I want to be a history teacher. Did great.
You watch Raiders of the Lost Ark one too many times. You're like, I'm going to be a history teacher.
That definitely probably played into it. I think that archaeologist kind of thing definitely played into me breaking into abandoned buildings all the time and checking that stuff out, and what later became normalized as urban exploration.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I really got into history, did that, got to the point where I was 9 years into my undergrad, and I had so many credits and so many classes that because I switched majors so many times, that every A I got, I did my last 2 years, I was on the dean's list for 2 years. Every A I got only raised my GPA 0.01, and I couldn't get it up to the 3.4 to do student teaching. At which point, I met my ex-wife, her sister. So I was going to school. I was working at a health insurance company. I got laid off. Was delivering food for a diner. My friend, my friend whose parents owned the diner and he helped run it. He had a record label and he was putting my band's record out.
Okay.
He got me in there doing delivery. Met my ex-wife. Her sister ran the production studio at JWT, and got me a job. And
oh my God. Okay.
So I went in there and was making, $35,000 a year, and was like, well, this was what I was going to make as a teacher anyway. So fuck it. I'm not going to keep taking electives and classes I don't need just to get up to that 3.4 in student teach. I'm doing this. I saw crazy people when I was little and thought advertising looked cool. So let's do this,
So did you ever go back and finish and have a degree, or were you able to cobble? Okay.
I took the degree. I took the history degree with the minor in education. I just didn't have the certification.
Okay.
That, like in New York, you need to get certified, and there's a whole process with student teaching and everything.
Oh man.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, don't give it. So I went to community college too, and I have an associate's in communications graphics technology, and I cannot teach. I have 31 years experience, and they're like, no, you need to have like a master's. I was like, or no, I'm not going to go into $80,000 worth of debt.
Yeah,
so you can teach at SVA. They hired they hire working professionals
if you want to move to New York.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you could pay $3,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment. It'd be great. You'll love it.
Oh, we're starting to get a little bit of that here. They tore down the old Supreme Court building downtown, and there is currently a studio that is $4,500.
Wow.
So my house that I bought 19 years ago, it's 2,400 square feet. It cost me $83,500. It's currently valued at over $300,000, to which I say, you are out of your minds. And please don't make me pay taxes on 300,000.
Yeah.
So I'm still a working stiff.
Yeah.
And and friends are like, you should sell. I was like, where the hell am I going to go? Everywhere's just as expensive.
Exactly.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. There was a point where a buddy of mine and my buddy Greg White, who does the grading now, where we talked about moving to New York or Chicago, and we looked it up and it was like, how does anybody from here go up there? Because we make so little down here, cost of living and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think there's no way the two of us sleeping in the same room couldn't make this work. Like, it's bonkers. I don't know anybody does it.
There was a time when it was possible in the 90s, and you could get a loft that wasn't actually an apartment and pay $1,000 and split it with 6 people and make it work. But these days, oh my God, I don't know. I don't understand. I never thought that there were this many filthy rich people. I thought that was rare to be filthy rich. Yeah. And now I'm like, well, literally, you can't live in an entire borough if you're not filthy rich. So how many are there? I don't get it.
So I was telling the guy who sold me my house was a family friend, were my parents. He graduated with my dad and uncles and mom, probably somewhere. He's somewhere in there. I don't know where he fits. And he has like 6 brothers and sisters. So I can't remember where he falls. But I told him, I was like, I live in a very working class neighborhood. And he was like, I told him, I was like, there are a lot more BMWs and Teslas in my neighborhood. And he just started laughing. And he was like, that's ridiculous that there are BMWs and Teslas. People move from California, Florida, and Jersey down here. Yeah. Sure. And the second thing, second film recommendation for you, After Hours by Martin Scorsese. It may be my favorite Martin Scorsese film. And it's like 1984 New York. And it's like artists squatting in entire buildings.
Okay. Nice.
Gorgeous. Griffin Dunn, Rosanna Arquette, Linda Fiorentino. It is a cocaine fever dream of a film. Okay. Yeah. It's awesome.
Sounds like the 84.
Yeah. So Gaelen, did you get your degree? What was your degree in?
I did get my degree. I feel like I almost didn't, because the first year of college I did grade-wise bad, or first semester bad, second semester better, second year amazing, third year, fourth year, wow, I never knew I could be this fucking depressed. But I had a high enough GPA and my grades were high enough, and I did graduate with a bachelor's of fine arts in photography.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that something when you got done, you were like, okay, what did you know what you were going to do with that after? I'm not trying to be a smart ass. I'm the only artist in my family, and my dad still describes what I do as, I think he does like menus for restaurants and shit. Like that's how he describes graphic design.
No, I just knew I was going to finish. Like, I was pressured by my family to finish.
Yeah.
When I was in school, I met somebody who I went to college right after high school. So I went in when I was like 18.
Mm-hmm.
And in my third year there, and they were consecutive, I met somebody that was like 26 in my program, on track to graduate in 2008 with my class. And I was like, well, what happened? Like, you said you went to school and then you left for so long and you came back. And they were like, oh yeah, I learned like a bunch of stuff, and then I used what I learned, and I made like so much work, like garbage bags worth of film. And I'm going to come back here, I'm going to process it, I'm going to print it on the school stuff, like, and I'm going to have shows in Berlin. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? Just like I wish that I wasn't pressured to finish.
Yeah.
I do think I would have went back. But I wish that when I felt like I needed a break, I was I felt like I could have, not like anybody held a gun to my head, but
Yeah.
it was at that point I didn't feel like I could make my own decisions. I didn't know that was an option. And like I think the school like wanted people to finish,
Yeah.
like they don't want it to look like people aren't graduating. And there were a lot of kids that I went to school with in my class that went for the first 2 years, got their practical skills and bounced because they got jobs. And I
Oh,
was like, I
okay.
didn't know that was an option either. Like, because like in New York City, they got like an internship or whatever, and it turned into a job quick. And, by the time I graduated, there was somebody who was like the photographer for Coach. I was like,
Good
cool,
Lord.
I have a degree. They have a job and an apartment on the Upper West Side. Cool. I wound up doing photography after school,
Okay.
and it was like a bummer. Like,
Oh, was it for
people
cash? And it was like, oh God, this sucks. I gotta
like for not enough cash. Like people are
Yeah.
like, you got to do weddings. I'm like, I don't have experience.
Oh.
And none of the wedding photographers on Long Island wanted somebody with no experience to like, I didn't know that maybe I should have been like a receptionist or some other job, and then you work your way up that way, right? If you can't just get in. I worked at a portrait studio, a kid's portrait studio, and it could be its own sitcom. It was a disaster. And yeah, then I just fell into working retail until recently, actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
my degree hasn't done much for me except being able to check off on like a Starbucks application that I have a degree. So
I get what you mean about going to class. Like I treated college like an extension of high school. It's like I didn't skip a class until like maybe my third or fourth semester. And the only reason I did is because one of my buddies was like in his late 20s. He's like, let's go get beer. I was like, I'm not legally old enough to get beer. He was like, we're not going to have a problem. I know a few bars where they don't give a shit. And so there we were at a bar at like 1:30 p.m., like getting beer. And I was like, well, this is cool. I'm 18 or 19. I'm like, holy shit, I'm drinking beer. I'm like, I was so used to like just working class family. Dad's a truck driver.
Right.
Mom worked for the phone company. You get up, you go to school. Like,
Yeah.
I was paying for it. I was working at, not to brag, but I was working at Taco Bell and I was paying for college. So I was like, I gotta get as much out of
Oh
this
yeah.
as I possibly could. So I totally understand that aspect of like, no, just go to class. Why would you not go to class? Also,
Yeah.
probably did not help that I loved what I was doing. Like when you're not having to do like what you're saying about like math or science. It's like, no, I'm in there designing logos and doing art. Like that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, you want to be there. You're not stuck taking electives and bullshit and trying to figure it out. Yeah.
I spent more time doing work after class. Like we had labs and stuff, but I didn't vibe with like some of the teachers. Like it was a good experience to meet so many different people that were in the field in one way or another, right? So there was like this woman who had to be 300 years old who was like the freshman photography lab teacher person, and she would just sit and she had like a young person, a recent graduate that was like a teacher's aide, and like you'd bring your stuff to her and she'd be like trash, garbage. Like at least to me, like I was trying to use black and white film to shoot bands because that's what I liked, that's what I did, and it was open-ended, whatever, and it didn't count because the lighting was set up for me. Forget that I had to figure out how to expose for it.
Oh yeah.
Forget that. And we didn't have access to studios. We weren't supposed to be using strobes, like all this stuff. And I remember being like, I don't want to be here with you. So like I would go, attendance, whatever, and then I would go back at night and spend hours because we were able to like be there till 2 or 3 in the morning. And I would do most of my work on my time when I wasn't around pretentious people, when I wasn't around, like I'll never forget there was like a freshman show the first year, and there was this kid wearing a fucking beret sitting in the window, like spot toning a print.
Oh,
and I was like, this is a comic strip. Like, what is this? from Westchester, which is a wealthier county above New York City. And he was like, anyone printing less than 8 by 10 or less than 11 by 14 is going to be laughed out of the freshman show. And I had just like printed my like 5 by 7 postcard. It was like actual postcard paper from Ilford. And I was so psyched. I really liked the idea of small art. Go figure, Mona Lisa thing.
Yeah.
But I was like, at that point, I was like, oh, almost anybody could get a small piece of art, whatever that art is, you know, like makes it more accessible, whatever. And I had started collecting postcards. I'm going to print on postcard paper. And I remember being like, who the fuck are you? Like, what? Are you kidding me? I just tried to be there when people weren't there because I just found I was annoyed all the time.
I have gone back to colleges and given critiques for design, and it's hilarious because like UT, the big expensive school here, there was one young woman who was very talented. You can tell she worked really hard, and she went to my high school. It's like, of course, because you have to pay for this shit.
You have
not
to.
like these. Your parents are not paying for this shit. And there was one young dude who all of his portfolio was like, well, I went to Home Depot and picked up letters and stapled them to phone poles in the old city, and I did this. I was like, can you please just be an artist? You don't have to be a designer. Please just switch over to art. Just move over to art, because this is nothing. Like this is, I was like, did you do something with this photograph? He was like, no, just took it from my phone. I was like, move to art, buddy. Let's move on over to art, buddy. I was like, I don't need to hear you. You're driving me nuts, man. I'm trying to think now. So I will give you one punk bona fides before I forget. So there was when downtown here was very rough, and you know, crackheads were sleeping in the park downtown. There was a club called the Mercury Theater, and I went from like age 13 and up. And I always joked, and my buddy Aaron, who's listening, he corrected me later because I told this story. It's like, well, I thought I was really, you know, as a big dude, that's why I got in, didn't have to show my ID. And he texted me later. He's like, they didn't check anybody's IDs. I was like, oh, okay. Damn it. Okay. Thought I was getting away with something.
Nice.
But I went and saw this punk band out of Northern California, these 3 guys, and they were on tour for their first full length. They'd released 2 EPs, and they were on the Kerplunk tour.
I knew it. I fucking knew it. 3 guys, Northern California. It could only be one.
And the other one was Operation Ivy. I got to see Operation Ivy at that time. And it was because Lookout Records, the people who ran it were really close with the woman who booked that club. So there are probably bands that I don't even remember, but those are the 2 that stuck out to me. Seeing Green Day on Kerplunk and then seeing them on the MTV, I was like, are those idiots that were like jumping off the stage and acting like animals and assholes? I was like, wow. I was like, that's nuts.
That's wild.
That's my weirdest punk. Like, and I did not fit in. I was wearing, you know, Fulton football and like gym shorts, and all these people were in all black, you know, spiked hair and shit. And I'm like, all right, who are we seeing tonight? Who is this Operation Ivy? It's like, am I going to have to punch anybody tonight? No. Okay, I'm good. It was me and three girls from school. One that had the big, Melanie, who was tall and skinny and had the big mohawk. Chandra, who was a small, sprightly black woman. She was very cherubic and very high pitched voice. And Valerie, and my buddy Valerie, who would beat the shit out of anybody who came anywhere near us. They wouldn't even get to me. She would kill them. She was the best. Wow. Valerie Cooper. Still alive. I'm trying to think. I know that 2 of them are alive for sure. One of them has really struggled. I don't know where Chandra is at. I have no idea. Haven't seen her since high school.
She's out there.
I do. I would love to see her again because she was the sweetest, like puffy cheeks, like very high pitched voice. And we'd be sitting in class and listening to the college rock station, listening to all kinds of crazy stuff because our art teacher was deaf-ish. Like she could barely hear, so we would turn on the radio to whatever we wanted to. KGN, the R&B soul station, or WTK, where we'd listen to like Ride and Depeche Mode and all that all that
Good
stuff. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Okay. So I'm going to fast forward. So nowadays, am I saying this right? You create and run events. Is that a good distillation of what you all do?
So I would say also we've created a couple events, but we also curate them.
Okay. So what does that mean to you? I want to pull the Jimmy Pardo joke and go, now, obviously I know what that means, but people at home, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Do you want to? I mean, I can make it pretty simple.
I could make it pretty simple as well, but if you want to go for it, you go for it.
Like, can you repeat your question actually? Because I'm thinking about
what does curating entail?
Because we have a place, we have one here and one in, they moved to they have a Nashville one too, the punk rock flea market. And when you go to it,
online. Yes.
It feels very much curated. And I hadn't thought about that until you mentioned it, that it is curated.
Yeah. I think curating, the way we curate our events is what makes our events successful the way that it has been. It helps us build a community. The community, we've been, I didn't even realize it until a year or two ago when people were saying how important it was to them. And I'm like, oh, you give a shit? Like it's not just another event. When we say curated, we mean like we don't get to say yes, or we choose not to say yes to everybody that applies. We have an idea of what the vibe is. And it's loose, even like punk flea market, like you don't have to be selling studded belts. We're like weirdos. Let me see your weird art.
Yeah.
Let me, like we're at the punk flea market, we're going to have a lot of records, people selling music related stuff that is, whatever. But we make the events we want to go to. Like something, the way that I got interested in this is a little bit different because I've heard Hugo tell somebody this recently. 2 days ago, whatever. Look, we were going places like Denver and Fort Collins and Portland and these Nashville, these places that were like in the middle of nowhere. Like being from Long Island as a kid, it's like, oh yeah, there's LA and there's New York City and maybe there's Chicago and there's Disney World and there's nothing else. Nothing else matters. So going to these places that were like in the middle of nowhere and seeing,
quote unquote,
right? Oh yeah, quote unquote. I'm doing it. You can't see it.
Most people listen to audio
and being like,
you're saying it's the middle of nowhere, and we realize that it's not the middle of nowhere.
Being like, this is the middle of everything. Yeah. Like what? Like if people in what I thought was the middle of nowhere are having these incredible events, I'm guessing they're incredible, because we didn't really get to go to many, but going to like places to get food or to get coffee and seeing the flyers and being like, I wish we were going to be here for that. Like being like, even one night when we were in Denver, Jello Biafra was DJing a dance party. We're like, let's go to that. It's Denver. We should be able to get in. They fucking sold out. Of course they did, because there are people that care and they want to do these things. Yeah. But for me, it was very motivating to be like, I want something to look forward to here. Like I was very into music and shows and this and that, and still like it, but I needed something else, something different, but still like adjacent, like to being weirdos stuff, like meeting people like Ashley. She found us online, and to just be a total nerd, when she found us, she was the most professionally recognized, most professional looking on the internet, and then in person, even like her display person. And I was like, she wants to work with us. Like at that point, I don't even know if we were making vendor maps or we were like, you can go there and you can go there like the day of. I was like, this person wants to spend time with us. I feel like I wrote a message. I was like, are you sure?
Well, There's a woman I recently met, Rachel, the Pickety Witch, that if you want to look up her stuff, because she goes to a lot of like creature curiosity events. Like there's like a tour for that, which I didn't know until I met her. Like they're in like a bunch of different cities.
I know, like World Oddities Expo,
Yeah,
travel.
that kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And she goes to all those. And I don't know how to describe her stuff other than it's cutely satanic. That's the best way I can put it.
That's
Like
up our alley,
yes,
you know?
I feel like you all would dig her, but she is also like very organized and very, I gotta do this to do this to do this. I was like, holy shit, man, you're taking this stuff seriously, man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
because I think
Oh,
I've seen it just thrown together so often. So the first punk rock flea market here was like in the parking lot of a tattoo parlor. Like,
Sure.
and it has grown to where now it's in a music venue that's a 1,600 person music venue that has a lawn, and it's
Yeah.
massive.
Wow.
But it's same thing. They still have like all the bands that perform and all the artists there are weird artists.
So,
Like-
you say bands that perform.
Yeah.
We are yet to have live music at our events for a few reasons. But we've been to Trenton Punk Rock Flea Market, and they had a
Yeah.
whole stage area. Like Trenton Punk Rock Flea Market was like going there for the first time was a life-changing experience for me.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
It's huge.
and it was
It's so massive.
it was before they moved to the arena, it was in like an old train
It
depot.
was a wire
Good
factory.
Lord.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, an old wire factory.
Yeah.
But imagine like big windows, big open
Yeah.
space, like brick and stuff. And it was full, of 100, at least 100 each day of the market. Vendors doing all this different stuff.
Yeah.
And the admission fee was like $5, I think,
Yeah.
when we went, and you could go both days. We didn't, because we had to drive home. But I was like, wait a minute. Somebody was able to get all these people in a room. They all came here, people from up and down the East Coast. Jared Gaines, the guy from the Oddities place in the city that
Mike Zahn from
Okay.
like really
Obscura.
really
Yeah.
talented, like heavy hitter people in what they do. And they got them to all come to Trenton. What?
Yeah.
Why? Wow. And they were able to charge admission and not make it $20.
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
like, oh, you can do this. It's possible.
I don't mean to keep hyping the punk rock, but it's
Yeah.
like it's also very cheap to have a booth, to where like my friend Esther Sitver, I saw her at noon. It opened at 10 and she was like, I've already made back my booth money. And she was
Yeah.
like, and I'm in a weird place where I'm not getting as many people as I got last year. And then
Sure.
there's a guy you all may know, Titty Bats, a guy.
Kitty
out Savannah.
bats.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of his shirts and all kinds of his stuff, but I've met him a few times and he was like, I love coming up here. He's like, I sell the shit out of stuff. And he's like, and it's Savannah to Knoxville. Like, it's not a bad drive. We just come and hang out and it's awesome. Like he loves it. But the cost of setting up not being crazy expensive, and same thing. It's like $5 to get in. It's like, y'all
Yeah.
are not screwing people. Like that's one thing I love about it.
That's a super important thing to me, and part of what
To us.
to us, but
To us.
like part of how this all started. We had Perks Department. That's our little catch-all brand for
It
what
started as like this is the art we make. This is the art we make
Yeah, it
separately,
was-
together. Like what are we doing? Where are we going? Like, let's see what happens. Like a portfolio for us.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
just kind of like, all right, let's start this Instagram account, and this is us. This is whatever little dumb bullshit we do art wise, doing a little, illustration or whatever. The stuff that, like she said, the stuff we do together. I had my did I even have 3-finger discount yet? I don't know, but we both had our own things, and then we was like, oh, let's do this thing.
And I feel like
And-
being together made me want to do more. Like I was kind of like
Right.
dormant with that stuff. And I was like, oh, like this dude's my hype man, and he likes what I do, and he thinks that it's good enough to share, and like that made me want to do it more.
Yeah.
You know.
So what happened? I guess. So I started doing a zine called Three Finger Discount, and what really got me there was I got this job in advertising that, like, I didn't work towards, I didn't deserve, I didn't do anything for, and it wasn't like I wasn't, it was nepotism, I guess, but it wasn't like, oh, here's this, you're a creative director now. Like, I was the lowest of the low in a print production studio. Yeah, it was I
can you take the trash out too when you
I mean, hey, we're
totally
doing a
before.
pitch
That's why I say that.
we're doing a pitch for Pfizer Animal Care or something about some kind of medical ID. We need you to go down to Canal Plastics and pick up some dog ID tags and stuff. I mean, doing all the running around, handling the bullshit. I definitely did earn my
where you wound up,
and worked to where I got, I worked to learning a lot of the shit on the fly, because I also lied on my resume and said I knew Quark.
Oh,
right. I'm gonna go back to the old days of print. I said I knew Quark because I used Quark Express once in high school to put the art together for the t-shirt design for my band. And I said, yeah, I know Quark. I didn't know Quark for shit.
Quark is, I love Quark. I hated moving to InDesign because it was math based. I built my first own personal portfolio website in Quark Express 4 when they introduced XML. I built the damn website.
These kids have never seen Quark. These kids today, they've never seen it. It was gone within 2 years of me starting at the agency. It was.
When did it go away?
2007, 8. It was gone by 2008.
It's still around, but no one is using it.
Oh yeah, nobody uses it.
Wiped it from my brain until right now. You unlocked it when I had the opportunity to do like an independent study in college, and I was like, I want to learn Quark because I knew people that were using it, and the teacher was like, no, absolutely not. You can't waste your time. It's going away. And I was like, then what am I gonna do? She was like, InDesign.
Hard drives full of Quark Express documents that I cannot open.
I used to do all the archiving and taking care of all that stuff with Cumulus Cloud back in the day. God. I did all that bullshit, and I definitely earned my way, and I learned fast, and I worked insane out. I'd work 60, 70 hours a week, and there's a pitch. Cool. I'll work 10 a.m. till 10 a.m., and then come back. I'll go home to Brooklyn and sleep for 3 hours, and then come back 5 hours later and work another shift until 10 a.m. again. And I did all that stuff, learned retouching, became a retoucher. And that's been like my main specialty in that world is
Photoshop.
Yeah.
I'm kind of saying that for people at home because
sure.
If
they're not in the industry, but photo retoucher, Photoshop. But I ended up, managing the retouching studio at the agency. And then they kind of merged the print and video post-production studios together. The video studio had the illustrators because they were doing the storyboards and they were doing the assets for animation and all that stuff. I ended up managing that studio as well, which was only, a couple staff people and a bunch of freelancers, who would come and go. But through that, I start meeting these kids who do illustration. They're, and they all do zines and they all do these little things. And there's a brand called Killer Acid that's out there in the world. You may have come across.
Bobby.
Yeah, he's in.
Shout out to Bobby.
He's in. He was in Urban Outfitters. He's in Zoomies now. He's out and about. He's
really blown up.
He's blown up a lot. He's made it his full-time living. He used to be a freelance retoucher that worked for me, and we became buddies. And I saw him doing his thing, and he was an illustrator that had his brand, and he starts making T-shirts and stickers and all this stuff. And I see these folks doing this, and I'm like, holy shit! You can just you don't have to be Gustave Doré. You can be doing this, what's cool in Brooklyn is drawing like you're 6 years old, And maybe some of the dumb bullshit I do, somebody might laugh at and have a good time with. So I'll put it out in the world. And that made me kind of go, all right, I'm going to do a zine. And really, so there was a zine called Night Watch that I came across. The dude, he worked for Santa Fe. He worked for a bunch of companies. Tallboy, yeah, Tallboy 666 on the Instagram. And his wife Krusty, they did this zine where it was an anthology, a compendium. I'm not sure the right terminology, but basically everybody gets a page. They had a bunch of people they worked with. Some of them were tattoo artists, some of them were just illustrators that did cool shit, and they were all in this like cool, like metalhead, crusty dirtbag. You know, there was the vomit issue, there was the beer issue, and everybody would just take a page and do this insane illustration. And I was like, well, I know all these kids that do illustration now because of this this studio I'm working with. And then I know some other folks that are artists or whatever else do stuff. So everybody, it was my 20-something birthday, I was like, we're gonna do a zine. Everybody do me, a page. She did a page, I did a page, and we called it Three Fingered Discount, which actually I have to credit Killer Acid. He gave me that name. I used to draw this three-fingered hand. It was basically the pinky and the thumb cut off, with the bone sticking out. That was like my little tag. So he came up with Three Fingered Discount. We called it that. Somebody she knows was a youth librarian. So he ran the youth department at a library.
Andrew Ballerman, what up?
Shout outs.
Yeah. He invited me to do a little market they were doing at the library. And I was like, yeah, cool. I'll show up, bring my zines. If anybody gives a shit, maybe, 2 people give a shit. That's cool. That would be amazing. So we show up, and all the other vendors.
So also, like, let's just say that, because it's the library, it's like the middle of the day on a Saturday. It kind of feels like out of place, but like library, let's do it. It's like 2:00 or 11 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah. And all the other vendors, we show up, and I don't know who's doing this thing. And we know pretty much all the other vendors. They're all friends of ours. They're all kids from the punk scene. They're all people we hang out with. And they're doing these side things where, this one guy's making buttons and stickers. Somebody else has this cassette tape distro that he does like mixtapes and shit. Somebody else has a t-shirt company where he's doing his illustrations and stuff. And it's like, I didn't even know you guys were doing this stuff, because we don't have a culture here and an avenue or a place where you would usually show this off.
It never came up.
Yeah, so
we never knew.
We don't even know that there's no network. We don't know we're doing this, and we're all here, And if we were in Brooklyn, there's going to be these little markets every weekend, and there's going to be this scene around this kind of stuff and the creative community, and everybody kind of knows each other. And there's people here doing that stuff out on Long Island,
but it was very isolated.
It was all isolated, and there was no community for it.
Okay.
So we kind of, after that, I was like, yo, we got to do this. We got to do one of these. We got to do a punk rock flea market. And if we can do it at like a music venue that people are used to going to, because it's a little tough to get, people in their 30s or late 20s or, our ages.
And the library was like a little out east, not like really out east for the people that know what we're talking about, but it was a little out of the way.
Okay.
And it's tough to get people to show up to a youth library, the youth department at a library when they're like a 26-year-old punk or a 30 or 40-year-old. It's a little harder to get them out there. But if you do it at Amityville Music Hall, where they're going every weekend anyway, and you do it during the day before the show starts,
it's like,
I was like,
you can come.
Yeah.
You can come out during the day now.
It was basically like, we can get, we can do this, and maybe we'll get 30 people to show up. That'd be amazing. Like, and we did the first one, and 300 people showed up.
It was assholes to elbows.
It was
Holy
insane.
hell.
I don't even
It was
understand.
January. I was like, maybe we'll be lucky that, like you said, like 30 people come. Like,
That was
it's
my
cold
plan.
out. Nobody wants to leave the house, and we couldn't even move.
Yeah.
We couldn't even move.
Yeah, it was super tight. We learned a lot from that one. And I mean, you know, it was something that we were equipped to do because of coming from that scene, that punk rock scene where everything is DIY. Everything is, you know, you play in a band, you get t-shirts made. You don't have a merchandise company when you get on a major label to make your t-shirts. You get shirts made, or you take a class and you make them yourself.
Or you have a friend that helps you out. Like,
and
he printed my zines.
Yeah.
You know, he was my friend that helped me out.
So it's that whole, like, you figure it out, and that's the ultimate primer for doing small businesses and stuff. It gives you that, like, nobody has some inside track. Like, you just go figure it out, or you don't. It's one way or the other. And we kind of figured out, you know, we can throw this event together, and people actually, way more people than we expected showed up. And it grew quickly into doing other events, and we have like maybe 3 or 4 different events that we do now regularly. So there's Punk Flea, there's the Great All Nighter every year.
Which, that was originally not intended to be an annual thing, but it was actually weird to be annually now. Like, the past couple of years.
It's its own kind of thing, its own brand. Each event has its own kind of brand to it, where it's curated a certain way. Everything's gonna have that, you know, it's us. You know, it comes from people who do Punk Flea, but, you know, like Great All Nighter is going to be a little bit more endearing to a more mainstream audience, you know, not fully, but like there's not going to be the shit you see at the craft fair where people are buying stuff out of the catalog and selling it.
Not your granny's craft fair. There will never be
I'm going to say something incredibly pretentious. The overarching brand of all of it is authenticity. That's what it feels like to me.
For sure.
Like,
yeah. We don't want shit that sucks, you know. That's what it comes down to.
The way I communicate with vendors, I feel like that's my overarching thing. If I fuck up, I'm like, I messed up and I'm gonna figure it out. Like, you know, it matters so much to us that we do the right thing, and people feel like it's worth their time. It's a lot for people to commit to doing this stuff, that, like, I feel like, you know, 100% we are authentic to the end.
There's a friend here. He's a photographer. He shoots all the concerts and stuff here, and he also does like Bonner and all that. But he's been telling me for years, he's like, I'm gonna start a skate shop, man. He was like, and when he finally did it, everyone showed up.
There you go.
Because it was like, of course they did, because they know that you're real. That this is not bullshit. You're real with this.
That makes all the difference. And people that's something you can't manufacture. It's something you can't design. If it's real, people can see it, they understand it, they get it, they want to be part of it. That's you know, that's what it is. And you know, we try to, there's a lot of that community oriented thinking in what we're doing, because it's, you know, I started doing a zine, and there's no community here for zines. People don't give a fuck about zines on Long Island. There's a giant zine fair in Portland. There's one in Philadelphia. And I'm like, that's cool.
Pittsburgh.
I do this zine that's super cool. Like, to me, it's super cool. And I've gotten artists to do it that I never thought would ever want to get involved with some dumb little thing I'm doing, but it's tiny, and locally, you know, nobody gives a shit about it. But, you know, we did that thing and at that one event and went, hey, maybe we can do some more stuff like this and cultivate a community. And it really kind of has gone that way, where, you know, all our vendors know each other now and do other events together. And, you know, they're all psyched, you know, to hit the authenticity again. I mean, you can tell when people are authentically excited to see you. And there's folks that we go to some of the other shows happening locally, and we see the vendors, and they are authentically excited to see us. And that's like a huge, you know, that's worth more than money.
And, you know, building on the community thing, I'm sorry, I saw you put your hand up.
No, I had a thought here. You're going to see me hold up a finger.
There's you know, I think the thing that's like also really important is that we're not competitive. We're not trying to push people down to get ahead. When we have a couple of vendors that like leveled up, graduated, moved on, whatever, having like brick and mortar stores, and they're the first people to promote the events that we're doing. They're the first people to cheer us on, and we do the same. You know, they need. If I noticed recently, we a local place did a market, and I was like, wow, like a fourth of the vendors here, if there's 50 vendors, are our vendors, and I've never seen them do a market with them before. That's awesome. You know, it's not like it's like building, I think of like a spider web, right? We're like spreading it out, and like we're there to support each other, and it's not like a, well, you can't because I already do it, you know.
What is it? A rising tide lifts all ships,
Exactly. Yep.
all boats. I don't know which one.
Exactly. Yeah, no,
I can't afford either, so it's one of those two. Okay, so the question I came up with is, you with photography, you with design and art, do you all get to, I saw some blur go.
Yeah, we might as well show it to you. This is somebody who's going to be vending at the Great All-Nighter for the first time. I'm very excited. He does pinstriping. This was an original piece of art. Grab the light. Grab the light. It should make it. Nope, just kidding.
This is Zoom.
It
Damn
would,
you.
it would
Spoiler
be
alert.
great.
Spoiler alert. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
There he
Holy
is.
shit.
I have a rule. You find an original piece of art for $100 or less, you buy it.
So
you buy it. Had to do it.
I'm going to point at this. This was, so I used to be president of AIGA, American Institute of Graphic Arts, here in Knoxville for 4 years.
Wow.
And the big thing for me was, we need to go talk to kids. We need to get kids,
Sure.
especially in these schools, because I go back up and talk to my high school, and you have these young kids there from the projects. I was like, hey, you can go out and explore the world. It's not going to cost you any money to just go hang out downtown and see people. So we did this thing every year that me and one of the other people started, called Budding Creativity. So we would go to the county for the art school, for the art classes, and say, give us all your art from all the elementary, middle, high school kids. And we would put them up in a gallery. And so the kids could see their art hanging up in the gallery. And then we would get professionals to donate art, and we would sell and auction off art. And we raised $8,500 or something in like 4 or 5 years in doing that. It's one of the greatest achievements I've ever had in my life. But this piece right here is from a high school kid. And then this is like a 3-year-old that the parent like laid down. No, what they did was like they laid down the tape, and then they got the kid to just paint. I was like, no. I was like, I understand that it looks a little more professional, but I'm like, no, but they got their kid to understand like putting paint on. I don't care if they're 3. Like,
that's very cool. I'm all for the parent kid collaboration.
Yeah.
When we get vendors like that, there are a few. I love to see it.
Yeah. There's another piece you can't see, that one right there, that's some kind of like photo collage some 14-year-old did. And I was like, that's better than shit I was doing when I was 26. You're really good at doing it when you're that young. That's fucking amazing. Like it's insane. It's one of the proudest things I've ever done, is like that we were able, and then we would take that money and we would choose one program and give whatever they needed. Like one Norwood needed cameras so their kids could learn photography.
Yeah.
But the question I had was, now that you're doing these things, are you, God, this is going to sound a lot more dour than I mean it to. Are you too mired in actually doing the event that you don't get to create art for it? Or do you get to do you get to do photography and you get to do like poster art or anything? No. Or
definitely.
Do you encourage other people to learn or explore anything in doing it?
I mean, to talk to, are we mired in doing the events and not able to do our own table? Yes, 100%. We usually have a perks department table with my zines, and I've done one issue since we've been doing this, and we're trying to get a little bit more in, but we're definitely not doing as much output ourselves as, we would like to, or we would be doing, I think, if we weren't organizing this stuff. That also crosses over to, like, for me personally, I get super involved in too much stuff So I still work in advertising. I'm working freelance now, but I still put in a lot of hours.
You put in full-time hours at least.
I put in 40 to 60, I would say, most weeks. And then I put in probably 30 hours a week running a coffee business, and I sell coffee and cold brew at farmers markets every Saturday and Sunday.
Back to that DIY lifestyle of packing it up, selling the merch.
It's like being a carny. And then
I got to get nerdy for you.
You went.
So this is a friend of mine. I did not do this.
Oh, nice.
But stamp,
yes,
label, stamp.
Love it.
Dude, what are we doing? I got it down to one label on the front that I don't have a copy of. But I was like, why are you doing all this?
Yeah.
One label. Let's make it simple. Yeah. And I still keep this here, even though I've had this here for like 5 years. I'm just like, why did you make it so damn complicated?
Hey, that's, when you're figuring it out, you just do what you got to do to get it done.
Question.
But it's so complicated. So between those two, I work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Most weeks out of the year. And then we do this. I play in a band and a half, the half band. I have a punk rock karaoke band that we do that's actually the most fun.
I'm laughing because I was going to say in punk rock, you're only in a band and a half. I don't understand.
Well, because of all this stuff, I used to do 3 or 4 at a time, but all this stuff, it's tricky. But it's all that stuff. And then, when we do have we do one thing called the Bazaar that's halfway between Punk Flea and Great All Nighter, and that'll be on a Sunday or a Saturday, and I'll go do a farmer's market and then pack everything up, race over to the other venue where we're doing our event, set up all the coffee stuff, and have somebody, either myself or somebody else, run the coffee booth at the event, because people want cold brew there too, and I got to try to make a buck somewhere and do the event and so it definitely is. There's definitely a bandwidth issue for sure for both of us as far as productivity on our own creative output. But it is what it is. Somebody's got to create that community. We could be putting our creative output out there to nothing, or we could build a community and put less output but to more of an audience.
I mean, I know you don't love the current Great All Nighter flyer, but we make our own art usually for the events. A couple times we've had talented friends, artists do some stuff, but I would say we're not the best at planning ahead. It's kind of like, decisive moment, coming back to that, where it's like, oh, we want to do this thing and we have to decide right now when we're going to do it, because if we don't decide right now, it's not going to happen. And even just by default, then we have to do the art, because how can you tell somebody, well, we have this thing in 2 weeks and I needed this yesterday, but I didn't tell you till right now? Like, that's fucked up. I'm not going to do that.
I mean, it's every client I've ever worked with in advertising.
But we like our friends, and we like talented artists,
treat
and
my friends like they treat.
Treat somebody like you want to be treated. But I've actually been able to be, creative in my own way of putting things together, of being able to curate like the vendor spotlights or create the vendor highlights, whatever. Very, very amateur video editing stuff. I've really liked making short videos, and because of technology, I have an iPhone, like I have access to these things that I never had before, and it's so user friendly that I'm able to do the thing I like most and bring things together rather than making something from scratch. But I do have to talk a lot. The talking is a lot. A lot.
Wait, is it you're having to talk, or you're having to people? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm having to people. That's what I call it. I'm tired of peopling. I'm ready to go home now.
And like that's like the one thing that I would have a very hard time delegating if somebody even wanted to help with that, because if the wrong information is shared or somebody gives the wrong attitude or whatever, that's our community. Like that's the thing that I don't, I'm not sure how to make it more streamlined to make it better. But my biggest contribution to the events is peopling.
Okay.
And like, you know, I probably put in at least 30 or 40 hours of peopling and making the vendor spotlights and, you know, answering the questions. And
Oof.
it's so much. But I love it.
So what you said
it.
about doing it and doing it now, because if not, it'll never get done. I've wanted to do a festival here for probably 12 years, and I've never done it for two reasons. Number one, I want to get enough sponsors to where everybody gets paid, because I think everybody who's in it, because it involves musicians and art. And I was like, everybody deserves to get paid. Everybody needs to get paid. And the second thing is, I know the minute I do it, that I need to do it the next year. It's not going to be a one and done.
Pull the brakes off. It's
no.
Just keep running with you.
The only reason I still have this podcast is like every 2 weeks I have to release an episode. The only reason I get to release an episode is because every 2 weeks I have to release an episode. And now I'm up to 150 something.
Wow.
We have a lot of catching up.
I will say the one that I always recommend to people is there's a woman, Gail Hinton, that she is a muralist that does all the like schools around here. She is in her 80s, still climbs on scaffolds, and doesn't take any shit from any man. And she is the biggest badass hero. And she's the sweetest Southern lady. We sat at her kitchen table, and she could not have been nicer to me. She even texted with me, which was amazing. That an 80-year-old person, 87-year-old person. But that episode, that's one of my proudest. I apologize to all my friends who have been on. I'm sorry. That's my proudest episode. It is. Because nobody knew who this person was. And I actually said, or my buddy Bud Reese, who just moved to Memphis, he said, it'd be cool to find that lady. And so because he said it, I found it. And I found her and I messaged her and I recorded with her. And I am very proud of that. And it is fucking awesome. And me having to hold my tongue and not cuss during the whole thing. It was rough.
Yep. That's cool. It's those little moments.
That's very cool. You said that you do the podcast because you have to do it every 2 weeks. You know, you have to do it. In that depressing time of my life when I graduated school, but also felt like it was a waste of time and was all whatever. I met a friend, Tiffany, a person who would become a friend through photography. We had a mutual friend that was in a band. I'm trying to keep this like quick. And he was like, you guys would like each other so much. Tiffany is just like you, but she lives in Richmond, and Gaelen is just like you, but she lives in Long Island, and you guys need to meet. And we met, and she was like, oh yeah, you know, for next semester, I'm doing this independent study project. I'm going to call it Here and There 645. I'm going to take a picture every day. Or she said, I want to call it Here and There. And then we wound up picking a time. She's like, I'm going to take a picture every day at the same time. And I want somebody else to do the same. And then we'll put them next to each other to see what everyday life looks like, how it's the same, how it's different, you know. Just let's do it. I know somebody else who did it and it was very cool. Let's do it. So we got to know each other through that. I was in an art show in Richmond. I drove there in my car by myself. I was just like, fuck it. I only met her in person for 15 minutes, but we had kept in touch because of the project. And when the semester was over, she was like, you know, it's over, but like, I really like it. I was like, it's the only thing I look forward to. It's the only thing that's consistent. I know that every day at 6:45, I take a picture. I've been doing it since 2009.
Holy shit.
I've only missed like 2 days.
So
every day.
I got two things. So what? Oh God. But I got one for you. I'm not trying to best you. I think you'll like okay. I think you'll like this. What did you change equipment? Did it go from like film to digital to phone? Like,
so film was unachievable or unreasonable because the guidelines were that every Sunday we would submit the previous Sunday through Saturday. So she was like, you know, it was very regimented, very on time, and she was being graded on it. So there had to be like the progress. So, but I, for a very long time, carried a digital SLR camera with me because phones were shitty. And you know, I wasn't the kid in the window spotting the print with the beret, but I was like, this is not good. It's not enough. Like, it's got to be good. And then, you know, at some point I remember being like, I can't carry this today. I guess I have to settle for the phone. And I had always had my phone on me because I set an alarm. Like, people were always like, how do you know? I'm like, because I set an alarm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it went from DSLR to phone.
Okay. And the second thing is, I was doing this for a while and I kind of stopped doing it. But instead of doing New Year's resolutions, I would do something for my birthday and I would carry it through till the next birthday.
Like that.
So one year I did 40 before. Oh, shoot. Half question. Is any of this documented anywhere? Like, did she create like a blog or a website for this?
We had one. I don't know that it's active.
Okay.
There was a lot of turbulence. Like, we tried to expand it to have other people. We started off one year with like 12 people, and then they didn't do the right thing, and it kind of went back to us, and it made my friend very upset. I don't know if it was like wiped from existence because of that. You know, like, yeah.
So there's another guy who did that around that time, Noah Kahn, that I found it on YouTube in the early days of YouTube, and it's just him every day. It's not at the same time though, because you could see like morning. But it's weird. Like his face is perfectly framed, but you can see him like growing a beard, his hair growing long, and then cut. It's crazy, but it was amazing to watch. I was like, holy shit, this dude does this. It's same thing every day. And I think there's a woman who did the music for it, this piano piece, and I think the song is called Every Day. Carly Commando. I don't know how I can remember that. Can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday.
Oh,
Long Island.
Oh, is she?
Long Island.
Yeah. Slingshot Dakota.
Yeah.
Carly Commando, Long Island. What's up?
So if you can find, and I think he kept doing it. Like, I checked in like years later. It's like, holy shit, this video is now like 10 minutes long. Like, what the hell happened? Like, he just kept doing it. Birthday. So 1 year, and I still have the box here, I would do a postcard a day. I actually started a project, and you can still find it. I think it's postcard a day on Instagram and Facebook and all those. But I would draw something and then send it on a postcard to somebody.
Sorry, Hugo's multitasking.
No.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't draw. Sometimes I'd write a note, but then when I was doing Inktober, that we won't call it Inktober anymore, I did one where it was like a scene from a film every day. And this is from Castaway with Tom Hanks. It's the day, the word was Krakosia. Not Castaway, the Terminal. I can't draw for shit, but that's my attempt at drawing.
Looks good to me.
So I did that, and then 1 year I did. We're gonna bring it back to Draplin because I know it's right here on top. I decided, okay, for 1 year, I'm going to do a good deed every day. Wow. And I put it in my little pocket. And at the end of the year, oh, here we go. I still got the notes. I missed 41 days, but I did a grand total of 501 good deeds.
So you beat one a day.
Yeah.
You did better than one a day. That's some Earl, what's Earl's last name?
Earl Hickey.
That's some Earl Hickey shit. My name is Earl. You got the notebook and everything.
But did the postcard, I missed one day. I missed Valentine's Day. And I wasn't dating anybody. It's like, how the hell did I miss Valentine's Day? Like, what a weird one to miss. But yeah, so I did that. And that one, a friend of mine told me something like, if you do something for so many days, it'll change how you think. And I was like, oh yeah, that totally changed my life. Like doing, and it was something stupid, like holding a door open, stuff I did anyway. But I would write it down. I was like, hey, don't forget about this. And It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work having to sit there and go, all right, I held the door before you. Okay, hold on. I gotta write this down. I gotta write this down because I'm gonna forget. Because it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm leaving the gas station. I gotta have something today.
Yeah.
It's
There
like,
you go.
yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, we'll get here into the end. A lot of rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Sorry, we're going into overtime. I
No,
hope you
no,
don't mind.
no. The one of the last episodes was 3 hours long with the Rachel from the Cattywampus Puppet Council. That she makes full size puppets.
What?
She actually has a thing now called Knoxville Honkers and Bangers, and it's this group of people in puppet costumes making music. Like it's craziest thing in the world.
Wow.
But hers went 3 hours, and at the end, she was like, "Holy shit, that was 3 hours!" I was like, "Yeah, we're just bullshitting." There's very little no stakes here, none at all. What would you like to see more of in art and creativity? These are also all going to be big questions, so I apologize for that.
Oh, just a bunch of rapid fire big questions.
After I said
Great.
no stakes, no stakes. Now this is recorded for eternity. So, I'm going to check back in like a year.
What do I want to see? What do we want to see more of in art and creativity?
Yeah.
I want to see some goddamn money and people being able to pay. Not me.
Yeah.
I'm saying people being able to pay their
Yes.
bills. People getting paid for doing
Dude.
the things that they're good at, and not like it's cool to see a Vivian Meyer. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah,
Vivian
yeah.
It's cool to see something like that happen once in a lifetime, where somebody did some, was a nanny and did this thing completely under the radar and was one of the greatest, street photographers of the century. And it didn't even get exposed to people
Right.
until they were gone. But, once in a lifetime, one person maybe should do that, but the rest of them should get to pay their bills and live inside, four walls.
Indoors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indoors is
Yeah.
good.
I will say he's a pile of shit now. I'm about to quote two very problematic people. But
Okay.
back in the day when I loved listening to Joe Rogan before he turned into an absolute fucking nut job.
Speaking of loaded things, okay.
He was great there was a certain window where he was great. He had this guy that was a blues musician on, Daryl. I can never remember his last name. There's a black man who is a blues musician that would talk to KKK people or Nazis and get them to no longer be that. And they would give him their robes. And it's a beautiful interview because it's Rogan listening to the guy and talking to the guy. And it was great. But he had the other problematic person, Andrew Yang, talking about universal basic income. And Joe Rogan made one of the greatest points I've ever heard. He was like, the best potter in the world right now could not know they are that because they're having to work at McDonald's to pay the fucking bills. Yeah. And he was like, that is the biggest argument I could make for universal basic income is people's bills getting paid enough to where they can actually do what they give a shit about. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit, Joe Rogan for the win for a few years. He was very good. I swear to God, he was very good. But he's a fucking asshole. I can't, that's another one. I may hate him more than I hate Richard. No, I hate Richard Prince more. I'm sorry. I can't. Yeah. That's deep seated. But to your point, like there are people out there. There's a kid that I mentored that he went to my high school that he got a girl pregnant at 19. Now he's working in a factory. He's not doing graphic design. He's one of the most talented young designers I've ever seen, but he had to work to pay for the kid. Like
that's what happens. And it's, there's so many, even taking the side of the viewer of art or the consumer of art, there's so much shit that they're never going to get to see that would make their life better because the person who is capable of making it is stuck doing bullshit to pay their bills. Yeah. And that sucks. I hate that.
Okay, Gaelen, how about you? I swear I have a fun question next. It's very light and happy.
I don't know. Like I feel like I agree with Hugo. You know, when I'm talking to people at events, I ask people, did you make your table feedback? Was it worth your time? Because it's not
Yeah.
always the same, you know, like, and experienced vendors will be like, well, don't feel bad. It's not your fault. You know, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. But like, we're having these things so people can succeed and, you know, be able to grow and stuff. So I do take it personal, you know, like what can we
Right.
do better? I know I feel like Hugo's answer was very powerful and kind of wiped my brain of anything else that I could think of. Like I I don't know.
I will say, on the topic of, you know, asking people if they made their table back, because that was actually, I started a 40-minute tirade about how we got started doing these events with my zine and da 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 da. And what I meant to talk about was the fact that we keep our table fees very low, because we want people who aren't exposed to have the opportunity to get exposed and to get involved. And we're trying to figure out, she just came up with some ideas of how to kind of bring in newer vendors, younger vendors, people who haven't done it yet, or people who have, you know, artists who haven't done this stuff yet and aren't gonna make $100 to cover their table. How do we get them in anyway?
You know what, even if they will, if it's their first event, it's like super stressful. They might feel a lot of pressure,
Yeah,
you know, and the Great All-Nighter is the biggest thing I do every year. Like somebody once was like, well, what does it feel like? And I was like, I mean, it feels as stressful as a wedding, I imagine. Like, I've never been married, but everybody wants to talk to me. Everybody's coming to me. Everybody is like, you know, or Hugo. Usually he's moving around a lot, but like the vendors know me. And
He's diving. He's shucking and jiving. He's like, oh nope, they can't see me. Uh-oh.
And it's even funny because a lot of people think that they're talking to Hugo on the Instagram just because that's what they think. And I'm like, no, it's been me the whole time.
Yeah.
You're talking to me. And usually if there's an issue, like I'm the one who can solve it because I have the bigger picture thing, because he's running the Nautilus table. He's making sure we have our merch. You know, he's more hands-on with the table stuff like that for us. But I really want to, I mean, I guess I don't know if this can kind of tie into the answer, is like I want new people that want to do something where they bring it to a market, where they share it with people, their art, their crafts, whatever it is, that new people have a supportive place to step into the ring. Like, you know, our tables for the Great All-Nighter, each year over the past couple of years, we've increased the price because the operating cost has gone up, and also we advertise and people show up.
And we have production values. They're higher than what we're achieving. My production values are way higher than what we're achieving, but that costs money. You know, we do an event called the Goth Prom, and I threw a lot of money into that, and I did 2 years in a row, and I'll never see the return on investment, but I want it to look, I want it to feel.
Yes, that's the important part. We're not going to compromise.
Event is a different situation where you can only dress the room so much when it's going to be so big, and you have to fit people, but
we don't have a permanent spot. You know, we bounce around.
To make the event we want, it costs money. So there's going to be that balance of like, the price is going to go up, but also,
even so, compared to other, you know, there's not many comparable events here. Like if you look at something as like, oh, an actual like competitor or whatever, their table fees are substantially more than ours. And the people that do those markets are happy, and that's why they keep coming back. They have a different crowd than us, whatever. But even though our tables are $100 and that's the most expensive table we've done, but it's still much cheaper than other events, I don't want somebody who it's their first time and they've never done an event, like to feel like they have to spend $100 to be seen. You know,
can I throw out an idea? I have an idea. What about doing a zine that is how setting up for Market 101?
She actually brought that up last week. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, No, last year I
Brain
was
meld. Brain meld. No.
I was like, I want to start a thing. So like when you are starting out and you're gonna be even if it's like how to light your photos, how to take a photo in a crowded room that kind of looks insane, but make it look good, like whatever.
Yeah.
We did a market outside last year. That was a small series. It was the first time we did multiple days, and it was the first time we did something outside that was like planned out, I guess. In 2020, we didn't, because of the pandemic, we didn't plan to do the Great All-Nighter, and I was like so bummed of having nothing to do, nothing to look forward to. We weren't seeing our friends unless we were in a parking lot, like spaced out. Like we were following the guidelines. I was like, we gotta do something. Like Great All-Nighter, we gotta be outside. I looked at the weather, the 2-week forecast, and it was supposed to be okay. A friend of mine works at Sweetbriar Nature Center in Smithtown. It's a property the property is owned by the town. The town is very strict. They can only do certain things, blah, blah, blah. But because of COVID, all of their regularly scheduled events didn't happen, and it lined up perfectly that with 2 weeks notice, we were able to have the Great All-Nighter, 2 days outside with critters, possums and owls.
That's awesome.
It was like such an awesome magical experience. And like the community thing, again, even the customers are part of the community. The power went out because Friday we did it at night. Traditionally we would have the Great All-Nighter at night, so we had it at night, and then on Saturday we had it during the day because we knew that would appeal to the crowd that normally came to Sweetbriar with families and kids. And and some people have to work at night, so we're like, we have this opportunity, let's do both days. And on Friday night, it got dark. As soon as it got dark enough that like there was no more light in the sky, power went out.
Oh, God.
And we were outside in a big dark field, and I was running around trying to make sure that every vendor had at least a flashlight. And customers were just walking around with their phones on, like nothing happened. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, what do you mean? Like,
that's awesome.
You think that I planned for you guys to come here in the freaking dark, like the Blair Witch Project, and like be trying to shop from the light of your phone? They did not care. And people, like our food vendor, sold out of food. Like everybody did so well. We made $800 in donations from that night alone for the nature center. It was amazing. But from doing stuff outside last year, like I'll never forget this girl. It was her first time doing an event outside, and I was like, you don't need a tent, but I recommend it, for a couple different reasons. It's at night, it's not like you're going to be in the sun, but it like helps you kind of define your area, right? So we got a tent, and I saw her struggling with it, trying to put it up, and I'm like, oh, let me come help you. And I'm coming to help her, and I'm like, oh, she bought a kid's tent. It only went up like 3 feet. And in that moment, I thought, how would she have known? She just read the email and it said, get a tent. And she got the most affordable one on Amazon. She didn't know there were different sizes.
Oh my God.
And she said, like, as I realized it, she was like, oh, I fucked up. Like, you don't need it. She's like, yeah, I'm going to put it back. I'm going to return it. I'm like, yeah, that's okay.
Hell yeah.
But
that's amazing.
And then seeing somebody who's very experienced in setting up, like could teach a class on it, let alone that their art is awesome. It demands your attention. And there's so much to look at. He sets up his booth and you would think that like it was a little store. It's wild. He had the best portable lighting setup. I'm like, we don't have any electric over here. What are you doing? He was like, oh yeah, I just get like 3 jump packs that you'd use for your car. It, fits the USB. So I get lights that are USB. And then like, it looks like this. I was like, you could sell that. You could put that in a box and sell that. Like, and that made me think, I was like, I want to start something called Market Friend, where if you are the kind of person that just wants to do your art and you want to be able to hit purchase, so you have your full setup, be it a 6-foot table, tent, the weights, the lights, like
a proper size tent. A proper size tent.
Exactly.
Not a kiddie tent.
Exactly. to make it easy so people can do the things they want to do. Because for some people, that's fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Like, I have a couple people that like, or even just like another thing with like a setup faux pas. This girl did 2 of our markets last year, and I was like, oh, her table's so little. Like, she could have had a 6-foot table. We had space for that. It was 4 feet. I could tell because I've seen so many tables, right? And she brought her tablecloth in for the Great All-Nighter. We have it at a venue. We've had it at a venue, the same venue for the past 2 or 3 years. This, I think, will be the 3rd year. And she has her tablecloth, right? So she's going to put it on the table that I had set out for her because I was like, oh, you don't need your table. I have your table. And she was like, this is an 8-foot table. And I'm like, maybe she didn't say it like that, but she was like, this is an 8-foot table. I thought I was going to have a 6-foot table. I'm like, it is a 6-foot table. And I'm so stressed out, not because of her, because I'm talking to 70 different people and whatever. I was like, it is a 6-foot table. And I'm just trying to be polite. I was like, go ahead and get your table from the car. Then you have it, go get it. And I had her open it up and push it next to it. And she was like, oh, this whole time I thought it was 6 feet. I'm like, no, it's 4. I can get you another tablecloth if you want to use the 6-foot table.
I thought you were going to say she would pull out the tablecloth and be like, oh shit.
She tried. You know, and honestly, she might have made it work in some sort of a weird way. You know, creative people get creative. But like, she did multiple markets on her own without me, thinking that whole time it was a 6-foot table. And maybe she would have brought more stuff to sell if she had those extra 2 feet.
Like, did you not notice that when you opened it up and set it up, your arms just went this way? Not
she
this
was a petite person. I don't know. But like, let the creative people make their stuff.
Oh my
let me
God.
help you get the things you need to do what you do.
Oh my God. That was my friend Esther. When she set up, they moved her table to where she was like right next to the stage and the speakers. And I DM'd her. I was like, do you have earplugs? Because if you do not, I go to a shit ton of shows and I can bring you earplugs. She's like, way ahead of you. I already thought of that. I was like, okay, thank God. Because you don't need to be at a punk show with like bam, 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 like right there in your ear.
No. And that's why we haven't had music too, like besides the space. We're like, it's so nice to be able to speak to people and not scream at each other. One of the things that also makes our events, I think, a little more fun is that we usually, for the Great All-Nighter, we always have, we have live DJ and people will be like psyched on it.
Yeah.
So it's like a party, you know?
Yeah.
It's especially like, I know even in our community of people that are, you know, maybe not that want to shop small and do all these things. People still want to shop on Black Friday. Like the first time we had the Great All-Nighter on Black Friday, I was like, I mean, I don't know if people are going to come. The tables were like $20. Like we really had nothing to lose. And we were like, oh,
I'm already working on art that is essentially fuck Amazon, fuck Black Friday. Here's 10 places you need to shop local.
Yes.
Like, and I did this for Visit Knoxville one year where, well, I didn't use that language when I did it, but I was like, hey, it's a week before Christmas. If you need something for somebody, here are 10 places open that you can buy stuff now that won't cost you an arm and a leg. And it was like people who make their own soap, or like a barbecue place that sells their own barbecue sauce or rub. I was like, you all have a dad or an uncle that would totally be down for barbecue rub or some hot sauce, something like that. Like cool t-shirts.
Hugo's Volume 4 zine, dedicated, I guess, or inspired by Black Sabbath. Last year, I worked the Perks table for a little bit, and the people that stopped were excited that we had another issue because so many people have gotten our zines for their dads.
I'm
awesome. Like, your dad likes this, loves it. He's got all 3. He's going to be psyched. There's another one. I was like,
that's amazing.
What?
It's weird.
Bring your dad. Let's hang out.
Yeah, seriously.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Like the first time we did the Great All-Nighter, and this was when I knew that, like, you know, there were other people that gave a shit for real. It's not just like, oh, people came because it was the first time and there was nothing else to do, whatever. This lady who was an older person probably in her 60s. She was like asking, vendors, oh, who put this on, who did this, whatever. And I thought she was going to fight us.
You
Right.
thought you had a Karen. You thought you had a Karen coming at you.
Long Island is eyeballs deep in Karens. Like, I feel like we invented them, right? So I'm like, oh, what? After I already worked 2 shifts at the mall, because I had 2 retail jobs and both of them would not let me take off. So I went in at like 11 o'clock at night or something, worked 1 on Thanksgiving into Black Friday, then a regular shift, and then went, because it was that important to me that I didn't want to miss it. The lady was like, thank you so much. I was like, what? She was like, I used to go into the city for things like that, and I just don't really do that anymore. And now I don't even have to feel like I'm missing out. Awesome. I can come here and I can enjoy these things. And I just remember being like, I'm not in trouble. You care, you like it, and you want to come back? Wow.
That's awesome.
That was like game changing for me. I'm like, if for nobody else, I'm going to do it for that lady.
Yeah.
And I hope Hugo still wants to. In my head, I'm like, I hope he's having fun. I really like this. I want to do this. I hope, he likes it, but for her, I got to do it.
There he goes. He's scampering away right over. No, I'm just kidding. Here's a happy question. Is there anyone you all would like to work with?
Did we not give it away?
The beginning of the call before. So she
him.
Yeah. Yep.
I realized the whole time I had. You want me to make a call?
She emailed him the other day. So I threw together some kind of a logo when we started doing this, just
because we needed something.
We just needed something, and I just threw something together, and now it's gotten to be all these years later, and like we said, we're mired in doing all the event planning and stuff, and I'm over here designing fucking parking signs. Like that's been my creative output for this, is I designed the parking signs and
but it's serving a need. People,
but they're the best damn looking parking sign. I turned into a politician.
Okay. They're pretty decent. They're pretty decent.
They're custom. They're not from Home Depot. They're not boring. They're not ugly, and they'll be very helpful.
But I'm never gonna get around to making a logo, and honestly, I'm never gonna get my brain settled enough from all the other shit I'm doing all the time to figure out what is our brand gotta look like. What is this supposed to be? Like, I have an idea of what our brand is. I know what our vibe is, but never gonna sit down and design it. So she was like, hey, I'm just gonna reach out to Draplin.
We have been listening to a couple of his lectures, stuff while we were working. I've been lucky enough to be working from home for about a month now. And he was talking about working with people and, doing work that he enjoys. And I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to ask.
He you can also listen to him on Ramblin' Man. That's the one video of this that I published to YouTube of him.
I wonder if
he ends up just asking me a bunch of questions about me. I was like, God damn it, dude, I'm trying to interview you, dumbass. So I get you. So when I started my brand, which is Feral Giant, I grabbed some stuff to show you. Like, I just did this silly little stupid thing that still is not a good brand mark in my brain, but I also don't give a fuck. So I do stuff like this.
Nice.
Yes.
So I do stuff like this.
Yes.
The He-Man logo, and put on a goddamn hat, because I was like, this doesn't mean shit. This is something that's on a business card and is in the profile image. And I don't, it's my little monster because I'm a fucking giant, but this is the shit that I'm like, this is what I want.
I want to hang that on the wall.
I love Waffle House. I fucking love Waffle House. Like Waffle House. And so I did, one of these days, I'm actually going to get around to actually promoting Feral Giant. And one of my things is brands that I would most like to work with. And it's like Oreo, Waffle House, like those are my dream clients, which are so stupid. Waffle House, Oreo, Howard's Donuts in West Memphis, Arkansas, Burial Beer in Asheville, Criterion, the film company, Roots of the Fight. Like, I've got a list, and it's just like, because I don't give a shit. Like I don't know if you saw it, but like my quote on the Feral Giant Instagram is, God bless it. Of course, I can't pull it up really quick. My bio is, priority isn't cash and checks. I actually give a shit. And the shit is the poop emoji. And I was like, no, that's my mantra for all this shit is I'm gonna get paid by the basement waterproofing company to do their branding and do all their shit. That's gonna pay my mortgage and all my bills every month. And then I'm gonna go do some cool shit. And that's what's gonna be fun. And part of that probably came from Draplin. Like him coming, he's gotta come, man. That it would be awesome for Draplin to come.
He's just like the perfect storm of like, graphic design genius. His work is great and incredible. And he also has, I've watched every video out there, Jay.
Sorry, our dog is wiling out. He's 75 pounds of chaos.
Oh my God.
I've watched so many videos so many times over and over again of like, at one point he very obviously had a 1 hour speaking gig. Like, this is the story, this is the show, this is the presentation. And I've watched that same one from that same tour from 6-10 different cities.
Yeah.
Over and over again. Maybe he says one word different. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's fresh, it's new.
Yeah.
And it's definitely evolved over the years, and now there's a lot more of them. But like, he's the kind of guy that you look at his videos and stuff, and you look at his career, and you look at his work, and you go, man, I really want this guy to design my logo, and I also want to hire him to design my logo because I want to be friends with this guy. He just seems like fun. He's a ball buster. He's fucking hilarious. He can tell a story for 100 years. He's into junking. He's into all the cool shit that we like too. So it's just.
Can we pause? I need to bounce this dog out of the room.
Okay.
Gotta go up here.
Go.
So my buddy George, who lives here, he's also a designer. He was just like, he texted me the other day. He was like, I just talked to Draplin on the phone for like an hour. I was like, he was like, I don't know how I've gotten to this place in my life, but I've gotten into this place. I was like, hell, I haven't even gotten to that place. But I was like, good for you, man. Like the last time he was here, he literally came here to go to a music festival, see Super Drag, because he loves Super Drag. And they're in Knoxville. Like everybody in the band is from Knoxville. Yeah. And he came just for that and was messaging me like, where the fuck are you at, dude? Where the fuck are you at? And I was like sick or so. I had family shit, and then I was sick. I was like, God damn it. I was like, I would totally be there to hang out with Draplin. I was like, I messaged him. I was like, let's get breakfast or something tomorrow. But there's a guy here that's a huge Field Notes fan, James Spears, that he like James had already planned a day. So like he spent the day with James and his big ass family of like 6 or 7 kids. Like they went all around the Smoky Mountains and shit. And I was like, damn it. Wow. It's like, all I wanted was breakfast. I wanted to feed him some hot chicken or something, man.
There you go.
Show him what's good. What's up?
Yeah.
Okay. So if not, is there anybody in the music world that you all would love to get?
Like, and what do you mean by get though? Like
to participate, to hell, even just come. Yeah.
Oh, to participate, the American Air Power Museum band. They are like
it's a very local thing. There's a place called the American Air Power Museum. So Long Island has a lot of history in the aviation and flight world.
Okay.
Kitty Hawk's got the Wright brothers. But then after that, everything after that happens on Long Island.
Okay.
Amelia Earhart left from here. Charles Lindbergh from here. They all left out of Mitchell Field, which is the lunar excursion module was built on Long Island. And there's the American Air Power Museum, which is in Farmingdale. I'm trying to think of the field that it used to be. It was Fairchild Republic. So it's Republic Airport. It's Republic Airport now, and Fairchild Republic built a bunch of the the World War II planes and stuff. And it all comes from that. So the American Air Power Museum is there. There's also another one that at Mitchell Field, which is the Cradle of Aviation Museum. That's where they have the LEM and everything. But the American Air Power Museum is smaller.
It's like
close to-
DIY style.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Scrappy.
It's all volunteers, old aviation fogies working on these old planes, keeping them running.
And enthusiasts, younger
And,
enthusiasts.
and
of
they
course.
have a band, an orchestra type band, and they do. I imagine they do a lot of Glenn Miller and 40s World War II stuff at events at the museum, but we've encountered them twice at something called the Sayville Fan Fest. So the Sayville Library has this thing called Fan Fest, and it's their little local Comic-Con type event where they have
Okay.
people in
cosplay
cinematic.
people, and there's like a video game truck thing, and there's it's like
It's cool.
Yeah.
And I've vended coffee at it the past 2 years, and the Air Power Museum band is there, and they're doing the Simpsons theme, they're doing the Jurassic Park theme, they're doing the Imperial March, they do
That's
some
awesome.
Disney stuff, what did they do?
They did
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Soulfinger.
They played Soulfinger, which blew my mind.
Oh my
Wasn't even on the
God.
program.
Yeah.
I was like, that's
Yeah.
like one of his favorites. I was
and,
like,
and it all goes back to Spies Like Us.
Yeah.
I've
Oh
seen
God.
Spies Like Us, and that's why
Yeah.
I know Soulfinger. But
Yeah.
then my buddy plays it at like soul DJ night that he does. So
Oh my God.
it's cool. It's cool. So they're awesome, and we'd love to eventually have them at one of the events. Not even nobody super famous, no chart toppers. We want the local, like little orchestra, big bands to come
You,
play.
you don't want
Also-
Fugazi reuniting and playing. No, you want the
Nah,
American Air.
nah, they
they don't. No, we don't need that.
We
They don't need us. We don't.
Portlandia did what they did with Brendan.
Oh yeah.
Jesus, what's his name? The drummer, whatever. The
Yeah.
drummer and Chris Novoselic and
Yeah.
and
Henry
Rollins, and they did their little thing with
Yeah.
cool punk musicians. I'm like, that's the coolest. We want to have the local,
That's amazing.
orchestra playing Nightmare Before Christmas.
I will say though that yes, 100% them, but I don't even know if they're a band anymore. There was a band from Chicago called Muka Paza. They were a punk rock marching band.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I'm into that.
It was the fucking
Okay.
coolest thing I'd ever seen. I went to a concert in Brooklyn in a pool that was emptied out. Ted Leo played and Muka Paza opened, but like you had no idea what was happening because they came from everywhere. And they had like formations and stuff, and they were playing like Michael Jackson, and they were playing like maybe some original stuff. And then after the show, they started again, and they made a parade to a record store. I can't remember what it's called now, but Junior Senior did an in-store show there, and it started right after Muka Paza.
That's amazing.
Everyone there, and it was like a movie. I felt like I was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. To have a punk rock marching band come to the event and not have anybody know, like it's a surprise, would be the coolest thing. We were at a friend's wedding in New Orleans.
Yeah.
It was a small wedding. I mean, maybe there were 30 people there. And it was very low key. Everybody stood under like this big willow tree. It was very nice, short and sweet. And right before the ceremony, our friend had said to us, "Hey, this is like a secret. Nobody knows, but we got a second line. Do you know what that is?"
Yes.
So he's like, they're going to come. They're going to start playing music when we're done. We are going to follow them to a trolley. They're going to play the whole time that we're on the trolley. Then we're going to get off the trolley. It becomes a parade. We have an escort, a police escort, to close the street as we go. And then it's going to end at the reception. And it was so fucking fun. There was a grand marshal. There, like, random people were like joining and dancing, and it was just like the most fun party, unexpected. I thought it was going to be cool, but it was
Yeah.
like, it was amazing. And I think that would be the coolest, to have a punk rock marching band come to one of our events, to come in through a couple different doors or even in a line.
Or do
And
the
just-
do like the Love Actually thing where all of a sudden somebody stands up and they're playing a trumpet, and then somebody stands up and they're playing something. So I think in hearing all that, I think you'll appreciate this. The song that our band played to get us hype for football was the theme to Halloween. They would do the da, 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 and you would see like the football players like getting all hype to listening
That's
to the
awesome.
Halloween theme from the freaking marching band. It was like, I don't know how we got here, but I'm glad we're here. Like that would be a goal in life, to meet John Carpenter and go, you're not gonna believe this shit. But a bunch of Southern football players at an inner city high school got hype to your shit.
That's
Okay.
cool. That's cool.
So do you all set goals or a checklist? I wish I could put that face on the audio.
So
You could take a picture.
yeah, no, for me, sporadically.
Okay.
I need to keep lists. This is something I've, been through with
Yeah.
my therapist, with everybody I've ever looked to as a mentor, or people who I look to advice for managing or organization or running a business or any of those other things. All of them, especially you being me, need to keep lists, because I can't stay on task. I constantly switch from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, and never finish any of them. So lists are super important. When I do have them, I'm really pretty productive, because I do, apply myself all day long, constantly, to all different shit. It's just, keeping it applied until something's finished. But yeah, lists and checklists are super important for me. It's just staying on task of making them, because I'll go months without making one, and then 2 days in a row I'll make them and get more shit done than I've done in a month.
I've got tons of these, and
Yeah.
these are just ideas, and then I have an envelope box full of ideas, and then
Sure.
can I do this without fucking everything up? I have my work board,
Oh, look at
but
you and your
everything here are just ideas, and some of them are in a different oh no, they have a little plus next to them, and that means they're monetizable. Oh yeah, there's also a Waffle House menu right there that my uncle gave me.
nice.
But to prove that I'm real. But yeah, that thing, it's like crazy shit. I'm like, the way I've put it is, if for 2 years I could do everything in that envelope box, everything there, all that, and I could hire out, if I have something in there, it's like a coffee table. It's like, I'm not going to build this. Somebody else, here's the design, you build it. Had money, infinite money and all that, still wouldn't get done. So still wouldn't even. So having lists and checklists and to do is awesome, but sometimes it's 8 years later and that shit's still not done because time, resources, whatever.
Yeah.
I have something to say about the goals and the list, but also I forgot to say before, when I was thinking about when I bounced the dog out of here, I'm like, who else would I want to work with? I would love to work with Dutch Bros. Do you know what Dutch Bros is? The coffee place?
We just got one down here. Yeah.
Jealous.
I think we did. Or am I thinking of, maybe it was Nashville? There's a Dutch Bros somewhere, because I saw it and they were making a big deal about it. And I was like, isn't this a chain? And there's one in Oak Ridge. So there's one.
We've been there.
Is that Dutch Bros in Oak Ridge?
We've been there.
Oh,
it looks like, there's one not far from my house in a town called Maynardville, that when I listen to people from Maynardville talk, I need subtitles, because it is, hey boy, aren't you gonna go down there? They sound like they sound like
Boomhauer.
East Tennessee Boomhauer. Like yeah.
Oh my god.
Yes.
That's why I say I can't hear my southern accent, because I know people that I need subtitles. That you all are the people from Deliverance. That it's just like, stay on that side of me. Stay on that side of me.
Wow.
But yeah, Dutch Bros. There's one out in Oak Ridge.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
Oak
Yeah,
Ridge
'cause-
seems a little more out there than
Yeah.
Knoxville.
I will say, if you collect records, we have an insane amount of record stores here. Like, it is
Oh, I bet.
crazy.
We don't
Like-
have any room. Don't say that.
Well, oh no. Here we go. We're going to do this again. Look at my floor and how many records. See how I can do this. All records. All. Those are just the ones I haven't listened to.
Wow.
There's shelves upon shelves upon my uncle and I. This thing right here is a ginormous bookcase that my uncle and I built.
Wow.
That it is. There's a lot of records and books there. There's also God bless it. Oh, the records are falling.
Oh my God, are those all CDs?
Yes.
Wow.
There's probably about 3,000 CDs.
Wow.
I'm speechless. I heard what you said, but I have nothing to say.
So there was a time when I worked 16, 17 hours a day, and I lived with my parents. So I just bought CDs and DVDs. There's also bootleg VHS that, God, how can I do this? That we recorded off of HBO and Showtime right there. That's what all those are. Here's the records. If you can see that.
Oh, I
Those
can
are just
see 'em.
unorganized, unlisted too. Here's ones my dad bought me from yard sales and auctions.
Nice.
But that right there is a 78 player that he picked up, like a cabinet system for $3.
Yeah.
And that
That's
is
some good junkin'.
that is an old camera that was in the News Sentinel. That's what they used to shoot the paste ups with. That two young interns were about to throw it away, and one of the old heads said, "Take this." Just gave me a box. Said, "Put this shit in your car. Don't look inside of it."
That's cool. That's cool. I love that stuff. I love the old, print nerd stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
That's the whole world.
Do you know what you would like to do in the next 10 years?
Wait, hold on. Goals and lists for me.
Oh,
Jesus.
sorry. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll make it quick. I made a list of things I needed to say.
Lord.
I make lists, for sure. It makes me feel better to hear you say that you don't finish all the things that you
Nope.
can think of, because
So-
you seem very organized.
Can I add an asterisk in there? Because it just came up when I did the 40 before 40. I only completed 29 out of the 40 things. And one of my friends, God love her, fussed at me and said, "Well, then you didn't complete them all." I was like, I put shit on there that there was no way I was going to be able to do. Because if you're not trying, if you're not reaching, why the fuck are you doing it? If I
Yeah.
put 40 things on there that I could easily accomplish, then they weren't things I needed to do before I turned 40. Like, no.
You
So-
know, we are self-taught with this. I've booked shows, I've done, we've done all these different things, right, that got us to here. We already talked about that a little bit. But like we only learn as we go. A couple people have given us pointers and stuff like that, but even so, like, you don't really get it until you try it. And a lot of my lists come after, where it's like, one year I had out of 70 vendors, I had 3 soap people, which is not that many, but you can't have 3 soap people in the same area. You can't do that. So now you gotta make the list that's like that ensures that doesn't happen. Make the list for promotional stuff. I make a lot of lists for the vendors, because there are some people that need like so much information. They want like GPS coordinates. I have been complimented as best vendor map maker for like finding your table and finding buildings. And I don't think I'm very good. So I feel bad for them and the other places they deal with, but that's another reason why they like us.
I will
Because
say one of the best phrases I ever heard. I worked for Pet Safe, the dog collar company.
Yeah.
And one of the mantras there was, try a lot of things, keep what works. And I love that, because it's like, oh yeah, fail and fail often. and figure out how to actually do it right the next time. You wouldn't have known that about the soaps if it didn't screw up one year and you're like, oh, never do that again. I did. Oh my God, this one is just for you, Hugo. Sorry, it's a printing nerddom. I worked at a print shop. Annual report for Friends of the Smokies. I actually designed it like 8 3/4 by 11 3/4, so it fit perfectly in a 9 by 12 because they had drum scanned the negatives of all these beautiful photos of the Smokies. So I wanted to make the annual report be big as humanly possible. So I sent it off to get filmed, brought it back, and the person who stripped it up was like, this is the wrong size. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, this is the wrong size. She measured out. I had put bleeds on the gutters in the middle. So I had put bleeds around every page. So it was 9 1/4 wide. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is like $600 in film that I just fucked up. But I try to be a decent human being. And the owner of the place is like, no, we'll figure it out. And I called back and told them what I did. And the people at the film, they're like, we're giving you this at cost because we understand how you could make that. Because I was like 23 or 24. And they're like, we understand how you can make this mistake.
Sure.
But the lady who did the strip up, Virginia, she was in her 70s. And she was like, here's the thing. You'll never do that again. I was like, I will never do that again.
Yeah.
Because every time I do it, I'm like, no bleed on this side. It needs to do this. Yeah. And I was like, that's 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's like, never again. Because I fucked up royally one time. Yeah. And that's all it took.
That's all it takes. And if you learn from it, then it's
if you give a shit, you learn from it.
Then you've made it a worthwhile mistake.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I was like, this is like 2 weeks worth of pay that I have to pay to redo this shit, man. Come on, man. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And I would say we do make goals. We don't they're like loose, but we do make goals because it feels like we can achieve them now. Yeah, maybe he felt like we could before, but I'm more on the pessimistic side. I think, I said to you on Instagram, like, holy shit, somebody gives a crap about what I'm doing. Wow. Like that's still like a really new feeling to me. And it's like a rush. But like I was like, I want to surprise Hugo. I want to really make a big deal and have the event grow, but also have it at like a really cool place that I thought we never could do, but I asked and they said yes. I'm not going to get into it really because it didn't work out in the long run. But why did I even start telling you this? I had COVID recently.
Goals.
Goals. So I was like, yeah, like we're ready to get bigger. But that was like way too big. I'm like, okay, like you could have goals, but like let's scale it back. It's for the better that it didn't work out, honestly. But we had so many people come, even with a last minute venue change, and it was packed. It's like, wow, this is really amazing. And we've, I thought maybe it's because, okay, Black Friday, we have a reputation, like people have asked us about it and customer people have come up to us at the table. Thank you so much for doing this. People I've never seen before, but recognize us from social media, from whatever. And we didn't really do anything this past year because of a bunch of different stuff, having to deal with actually being people. And we had a bazaar on the 30th of September back at the place that we got started with, the Great All-Nighter, at the Cinema Arts Center in Huntington, a nonprofit. Shout out to the scrappy venues. That's probably where I'll always want to be. They appreciate us being there and bringing people to their establishment. And, it feels good to support a community run organization, not a corporation or something like that. But I think like 700 people came.
Holy shit.
And like That was a lot for not Black Friday for us. Like that was a lot. I was nervous. I was like, what if nobody comes?
Yeah.
And everybody came.
That's awesome.
So like, I'm really hoping that we get 1,000 people for the Great All-Nighter. Like that's my
Okay.
goal.
Okay.
For this year. Like last year we had around 600, I think, right? Around 600 at least. We do have somebody at the door counting.
Doing the,
because it got to the point where like, we have no idea how many people are here, but we know it's a lot. And like, how can we ever grow it if we don't have a number? So we have a wonderful friend who loves being the door guy. Mike Garland couldn't do it without him. He holds it down. He's reliable. His son Jackson, they're wonderful. Appreciate them so much. But I'm hoping that we get at least 1,000 people this year.
Okay.
We have, and also a goal was to have vendors travel from out of state, like to want to, because Long Island is a pain in the ass to get to. There's a lot of expensive tolls. The traffic is terrible. We drove from Florida to Long Island with a friend who was driving all the way to Canada, and we stretched it out, the drive. We stopped a bunch of times, whatever, but the worst part of the drive was getting us onto Long Island. The worst, absolute worst part. I wanted to like jump off the bridge. Like, I'm not trying to, it was just like, so like, oh, why did we even come back? Like, why are we doing this? But anyway, last year we did we were doing the series, the Bizarre Bazaar series. It was outside. We had a lot of space, and I was trying to recruit vendors because we had space. We could have fit 100 vendors. It would have been overkill. It's for the better that we didn't. But leading up to the event, we're like, oh, this could be as big as we want it to be.
Okay.
So I did ask a couple people from out of state, like, hey, if you guys want to come, we're doing this thing. I think it could be worth your time. Just put it out there. Somebody did come. They had a good time. And I learned from that too. I was glad they were transparent with me. They were like, this has nothing to do with you as a person or your what you and Hugo do. But like, it was a real far drive for me. I picked up my business partner, somewhere that was inconvenient. It was a long day for me, and I wouldn't be able to do it again. It's just too much. And I was like, cool. Thank you for telling me that, So I haven't gone out of my way to ask out of state vendors because like, I want to make sure that if people come, it's going to be worth it. And I didn't, anyway.
I was going to say, that's what I've been telling Hannah, my friend Hannah with Snakes and Aces. I'm actually wearing her shirt right now.
Very cool.
I told her, I was trying to get her down here for the punk rock. I was like, I know it's an 8-hour drive. I was like, I have a spare bedroom. I was like, and I will help. I was like, and I will help you vend. Because I know you're going to drive your ass off and you're going to stand there and work for it. God, I think it goes from like 11. No, I think it goes from like 10 to 10. Like it is a 12-hour event.
Holy shit.
And I was like, I will come. I will help you vend. I will bring you food. I will do whatever I got to do to get you down here. Because that's what it's. I was like, and I will take you, her and her boyfriend. I was like, I will take you to some of the finest restaurants that are not actually the finest. They're just the best damn food.
Best.
Like,
Yeah.
But
like,
real stuff.
Yeah.
This year, I've had vendors from out of state contact me. And I've said, like, you realize we're on Long Island, right? Like, you want to do this? And they were like, yeah, I'm trying to get out more. I've got a couple vendors from Connecticut. I've got a couple vendors from New Jersey, somebody from Texas. They are going to be here for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
But I was like, you want to lug all your stuff here? She was like, hell yeah. You got it. You're in.
That's crazy.
Like, it was
That's awesome though. Yeah.
I saw their stuff and I thought it was really cool. And I like engaged with their page, started following them, and they submitted an application. I'm like, was that a mistake? Like, we're really far. Like, what? And that's been the best feeling.
This is Long Island, not Louisiana. You do really
yeah. Not
like
close.
I mean, and if you're driving, I feel like it's at least $20 in tolls. Forget about like just to get onto the island from bridges, tunnels, whatever. Forget about the traffic. If you don't have somebody here and you need somewhere to stay, I mean, we would we're DIY. We would offer people to stay with us if they needed somewhere to stay, you know, but also we're running a huge event and we are not running a hostel.
Yeah.
But like, it's amazing. A goal of mine also would be to have some sort of a tour. You know, like
Okay.
I loved going to Renegade Craft Fair in the beginning. It was like in Brooklyn, it was outside. It traveled from Chicago. And I really like hold in the baseball field in Williamsburg, that time like really close to my heart. I'm sure the events indoors are also very lovely. But we got to actually, Hugo and I, work a friend's table at Renegade in Portland, Seattle. I think just Portland and Seattle. And that was a very cool experience. And that was kind of before we really got involved with doing our own events and stuff like that. And it only made me want to do it more. But to be able to have a tour, whatever that looks like, where, you know, with the internet, I've been meeting a lot of people that are like, oh my God, I wish I could do your event, but I'm in Ohio or whatever.
Right.
But
Right.
if we were able to do something like something in Tennessee, something in Vermont, something, you know, in Illinois, or you know, like to be able to have a good enough reputation that people would want to be part of it if we came to their town, and like work together with their people, that would be the best, I think.
I feel like for here, the slept on places that would work for you all are like Johnson City, Tennessee. So there's like that is very much that scene up there, and it's also a college town. It's ETSU, and it is on the way up. And then the other one, I would think Asheville, North Carolina is one that is a weird city that nobody is doing that there.
Good to know. I've heard a lot of good things about Asheville.
It's weird. It's weird. When I started going there 20 years ago, like I looked at moving there, but there was not enough business. And it was like a folk art town, folk craft town. And now it's like 40 different craft breweries, some tech shit. And it's just like, this is weird. This is weird. You've lost the scruffiness of that town.
Sure. See, I want to do Oak Ridge. I want to do the radioactive flea.
Oh my God.
I am obsessed.
So there's a lady, and she's actually coming here to speak. There's a great book called The Girls of Atomic City. And it's this woman wrote a book about the women who did all the work in Oak Ridge while the men were at war. And they're the ones who built the bomb. It's fucking awesome. She's written a new book, and she's going to talk at one of the bookstores downtown. I was like, I gotta go meet her and tell her how much I love that book. And it was wild because like I bought that book, read that book, and then I was in San Francisco like a week later, and she was coming there to do a talk like the next week. I was like, damn it, I missed you by 1 week. I was like, how? And it was at a bookstore that was directly next door to the hotel I was staying at. So I passed by the window. It's like, this is fate. This is awesome. Like that, all this kind of fit together. Anyway, Oak Ridge, radioactive flea.
Yeah,
that's fucking hilarious.
We were there. I think it was the last day the museum was open.
It was a surprise, right? I know his interests pretty well, and I like to bring joy to people, right? So I'm like, hey, we're gonna go do something tomorrow, you know. And I feel like I told him on the way because we put it in the GPS, right? It was a very bizarre trip. We saw amazing band Murder by Death play in Cumberland Caverns.
Oh yeah.
We went to Dollywood. I thought it was going to be like,
oh my God,
substitute Mickey Mouse at Walt Disney World for Dolly Parton. It was very different. It was nice. It was fun. We had a good time.
I loved it.
But I was expecting more Dolly. We went to visit my dead grandparents that I never met. They are buried in Tennessee. That's where they retired. And it was like, my dad, the person who can't explain things, is like, oh yeah, you like go through the town and you make a right at the thing.
Wait. There's one aspect. You go and you turn right where the Woolworths used to be. Yeah. That's the big thing here. You go to where the Caswalker used to be.
Oh, sure.
I was like, the Caswalker hadn't been around for 50 years. What the hell are you talking about? Go to where the Caswalker used to be. So I will.
If he had actual landmarks, it would have made things a lot easier. He just had nothing. Like, yeah, go
the 3rd Street when you pass the circle, and like
insane.
The lights going down. We didn't plan to need like 3 hours. I'm
this was the middle of no. This was truly the middle.
Oh yeah. So I got a new one for you. So I can't remember when they did this. I think it's been like 5 years ago because it was before the pandemic. But I'm gonna tell it this way. My buddy Billy Wayne Davis, who's a nationally touring comedian, he was performing in San Francisco while I was in San Francisco. So I went and saw him and took my friend with him. We walk outside. He's with these guys that had come from Humboldt County and brought him garbage bags full of weed to take back home with him to LA.
Good.
And these 2 guys are standing there, these 2 nebbishy looking guys, and I'll come lumbering. I was like, hey man, how's it going? And I start talking to him. He's like, yeah, I haven't been back in a while. I was like, here's something that's changed. You remember Brushy Mountain State Prison? He was like, yeah. I was like, they've turned it into a museum and they make moonshine there. I was like, and one of my buddies was getting married, and him and his dad rode their motorcycles to tour Brushy Mountain State Prison, which is where James Earl Ray was in prison. And that crazy race that they do that starts with a B through all the woods and shit here. Have you heard of that? Like, it's like 72 hours. There's a documentary about it, but it's about people escaping Brushy Mountain. I was like, that's now a tourist destination. A place where they used to put people in the electric chair is now a tourist destination where they make moonshine. Like, it's the craziest shit in the world. And it's not far from Oak Ridge. Like, it's not far from Oak Ridge at all.
Yeah.
That's why I say add it.
That
circling back to it, we had we when we go away, it's like nonstop. And if we don't have like weird stuff to do, we find it. And I was like looking up like, Atlas Obscura, but probably first Roadside America.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, oh, this checks off a couple boxes for him. Okay, let's go. And we went, and we were driving. He was like, what? And he was so psyched. And we were there the last day the old museum was open. It was wild.
It was really cool. We've been there. We've been to the National Atomic Testing Museum in Vegas. Now we just got to get to Los Alamos.
Oh yeah,
done the big 3, and then it's on to seeing where they went, and that's a bigger trip. That's going to Japan and seeing Hiroshima, which is definitely. I
was going to make that joke, and you beat me to it.
Oh no, it's 100%. That's on my list. God. I want to do the big 3 where they built it, and then I want to see the aftermath, because that was that's my history degree. I did American history, but then I also did an elective on Japanese history, which was incredible, and that's always been like my number 1 place I wanted to go. So that's
okay. I'm stupid, but where's 3 Mile Island?
3 Mile Island,
West Virginia,
Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Pennsylvania.
Okay,
Yes.
I knew it was somewhere up there, but I was like, was that Long Island? No, that was Pennsylvania.
Nuclear disasters are another big one for me. Chernobyl is one of my highest destinations I want to visit.
But the Montauk Project is Long Island.
Oh, okay.
The thing that Stranger Things is based off of, that's Long Island.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the biggest one of them all. The last question. Right. If you could talk to the 14-year-old version of yourself, what would you tell them?
Don't go to college.
Invest in Apple.
There's that. I mean, no, I'm so okay. As a history major who was an education minor and did want to get into education and did want to teach people, I'm a big proponent of vocational school and vocational training and taking a program that's going to teach you to actually do a job, not go to college and spend 4 years learning a bunch of bullshit, racking up debt. If you want to do a job, go learn to do that job. And you know what? Don't do it when you're 18 and you have no idea what you want to do with your life. Do it when you're 25. Do it when you're 28. Do it when you're 36, 45. Whenever it happens, do it then. That's a big one for me, because I went to school for 9 years. I was lucky that I went to state and county, community colleges and stuff, and I didn't spend a lot of money, and I was working the whole time and paying it off as I went. So I didn't end up with a lot of debt, but I pissed away a lot of time on school. And I missed things I could have been doing. I missed a tour of Europe in a band that I was in because I was like, I'm not going to drop out of school for 1 month of tour. I should have. That's something I can't do again. I could go back to school again. So yeah, that's definitely up there with what I would say. And also, the fact that you can do art, you can get involved in creative things, and it might not pay the bills. You might have to do a day job, but you can do your own thing on the side and figure it out and kind of, at least be creatively fulfilled by selling. So my biggest thing, the biggest thing that's ever hit that I've done creatively was I made a fucking bumper sticker. He
does. Of course he does.
The Alice Coltrane bumper sticker. Keep
Oh,
honking. I made a keep honking. I'm watching Weird Al's 1986 comedy sensation UHF.
Yeah, I know that.
I sold like 3 of those a day.
Oh my
day for
God.
several months on Etsy until Etsy said, "You've hit the threshold. We need your tax information.
Oh, Jesus.
You can't sell anything more because we have to start reporting this." And I said, I'm not going to do that. And I closed my Etsy store. And at this point, I'm like, I got to reopen it and just pay the taxes because that's the only thing I've put out in the world that's really hit and had an audience that like it sold many.
Oh my God.
Many.
Yeah, I totally remember that.
Yeah. It's that little, that might be your creative fulfillment in the world, but that's better than not doing it. So, you might have to have a day job and you might have to do, whatever bullshit, but you can have some output and you can be an artist, quote unquote. I got a UHF bumper sticker, but hey man, that's art. I don't give a shit. Andy Warhol made a fucking soup can. I made a UHF bumper sticker.
That's the bull quote from this episode.
That's it. It is what it is.
Okay.
I would tell 14-year-old me. I was in a pretty decent spot for a 14-year-old kid. I was like finding friends outside of school, getting into band photography and having something to look forward to. So I would tell that person, when it stops being fun, stop doing it. Pushing through and doing it more when it's not fun is not going to make it better. It might be fun again, but you're going to be miserable if you keep pushing and it's not fun. I would also tell myself, do not let any stupid fucking leech boyfriends into your life until you are 21.
Yeah.
I have a series of bad, not good people. But they, I just think like if they weren't around, I would have had other times to fuck up in different ways. It's fine.
Yeah.
I would say that also figure out why you wanted to go on tour so bad, and then find out another way to, get that feeling a different way. You could fulfill that feeling a different way. I wanted to go on tour with bands so bad, and I couldn't figure out why until recently. It was because of the community.
Yeah.
Like, I found my people in going to punk shows and hardcore shows. Even though I didn't really listen to hardcore, I ran a zine, an online zine. I went to shows complimentary frequently because I posted listings and stuff like that. So I just needed somewhere to go and something to do, and people that weren't like trying to light me on fire. That's not there were anyway. High school was weird, right? Middle school was weird. I grew up in a not bad neighborhood, and a lot of kids just didn't know what to do with themselves and were shitty. But anyway, I would tell myself to figure out why you like how it feels, figure out that feeling, and then make it fun. find it somewhere else, because it got to the point where it was like, like, I'll never be able to do this. Like, oftentimes I was left out because I was a girl. As an adult, I was able to figure out like, oh, like 5 dudes didn't want a girl in the van because things could get like sexual tension stuff, whatever. I was just like, I'm just like your brother. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't get it. And I get it. Like, it just wasn't the right time for me to do that. But it felt like I was missing out on stuff. So I would like to cut that part out, and maybe I've gotten into this scene that we're cultivating earlier. Or, yeah, I mean, that's it. I would tell myself to go to all the free art things. Go to the granny craft fairs. There's going to be somebody there who needs to see you, and you need to see them, because it's the first thing they heard of. They don't know that there are other people, other places, other outlets. They don't know.
Yeah.
And they're not alone. You're not alone. Figure it out. Like, show up for sure. It got to the point, like, I went to a couple craft fairs with my dad growing up, whatever. I remember being like, this is boring. Like, I don't like this.
I don't need to see another lace doily.
I mean, but like, you got a granny making them. Show me that.
Yeah.
Show me something handmade. Show me that stuff. Like, one of my favorite things that I have is, and I'm not religious at all, my friend's grandma, who was like always at her house. I remember her very clearly, even though she passed away a while ago. She had this thing for like patting people's butts, and like in a very silly way, and like hugging them. She was very kooky, but she would make like God's eyes, like with popsicle sticks and yarn and stuff. And she was very into God, and she wanted you to feel like you were being looked after by God. You're a good person and whatever. And one of my favorite things,
I gotta do something on audio podcast. So I'm gonna do
exactly. My favorite thing was that she made me one, and I was like, I really like the colors. I like that somebody went out of their way to make this, even though I don't care about And recently we were at a yard sale, antique store, whatever. We don't go often because I have bad self-control, so I have to just like abstain.
But you saw my records. Yeah, I hear you.
We were somewhere, and I saw like a cross thing that was similar, and it made me start crying because it made me miss her grandma, because that like handmade thing made that connection. And I like sent my friend the picture. She's like, oh my God, you won't even believe it. I was just telling the story yesterday, and like it's her birthday, and like all these things that came together. And it was really cool feeling. But go to everything that's free. It won't be a waste of your time. You don't have to stay forever. Do a walkthrough.
Yeah.
We actually went somewhere to meet up with somebody. We're trying to do this collab thing, and I'm talking quick to make it quick. And I didn't expect much from the event. We went to go see our friend or new friend. We talked to them for a while, and we were tired. We already did the farmer's market. We're like, well, let's get out of here. I don't know. We're already here. Let's walk down the street. We saw some of the most creative, well put together displays from vendors that we've seen in one place that wasn't our market. We were like, I was blown away. I was like, I didn't know these people existed. Where have you been? And some people, it was like their second time vending, first time vending, and their stuff was so on point. It was like very inspiring, like there's still people to meet. There's still people that I can learn from who are newer than me. Like it was so cool. And we have a couple of those people coming to the Great All-Nighter now, which is really awesome.
So that peopling you learned how to do. It's like, we'll go, was it shake some babies, kiss some hands?
I got to be the mayor. I got that from retail. That's like, I learned all about that from working in retail. And although it felt like a waste of time then, it's been very helpful. I used to be very shy, wouldn't have been able to even do this. Yeah.
My dad loves talking about, he was like, yeah, hell, forever. Jody was my son, and now I'm Jody's dad. He's like all the people in town. He's like, what the hell? Why'd that change? He's like, I gotta change it. I gotta fix that shit. That ain't gonna work. Anyway, thank you all so much for being on. I'm going to tell you some stuff off mic that I don't want to broadcast out there. I've been making notes, but thank you all so much for being on. I really appreciate it. You're doing
Thanks
good
for having
things.
us.
I feel like I need to say that. You're doing good things.
Thank you.
I'm here
Thank you.
to
It means a lot.
encourage.
Thank
Yes.
you.
I appreciate
Thank
that.
you for giving a shit enough to interview us. This is our
Yeah.
first podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 hours and 30 minutes. You did good.
Woo! It's just like you were at a hardcore show in Long Island in the parking lot. You got the full Hugo experience. I'd be like holding the keys like, we got to go feed the dog, but we're
Oh my
home.
God.
I was able to take care of that. Best
Oh my
case
God.
scenario.
All right. For the audience, see y'all later.